Good evening. Good evening. This public special meeting of the, oh no, this is wrong. Is this a regular board meeting of the Board of Education is called to order. All items being considered this evening are posted on the PPS website under the board and meeting tabs. This meeting is being streamed live on PPS TV service website on channel 28 and will be replayed throughout the next 2 weeks. Please check the district website for replay times. Welcome everyone. Thank everyone for being here this evening. Before we get started, I wanted to share a few reminders. I see we have a large crowd this evening. In anticipation of this large crowd, we have set up an overflow seating outdoors to provide extra seating once we reach capacity. If there's anyone outside that is testifying today, we will come out and call your names if you're not in here. A few other reminders. In order to ensure safety, we please keep walkways and aisles clear. We also ask you to please be considerate to those around you and keep any signs below chin level. I also want to remind everyone that our work here tonight is purposeful and the business of the board is in service to our kids. If we cannot conduct our business in this room, we will move our meeting to another location. And by doing this, it's going to negatively affect, impact those who showed up here tonight. Once again, like I said at the last meeting, I don't have an issue with protests, but when it becomes disruptive to where we cannot do the work of our kids, and I'm assuming that's what we all here is for, we're going to move to a location so we can focus on our kids. So with that, I want to take a moment to discuss some sensitive topics that our community has brought up in the past few weeks. I wanted to assure everyone that the board also shares these same concerns. We have received numerous messages from students, teachers, parents, and the community about various topics, including concerns around the handling of the January winter storm, student safety in middle schools, the conflict between Hamas and Israel, suggestions for instructional times, the significant cuts being proposed here in PPS. These planned cuts include change in special education, library positions, arts and music programs, as well as layoffs of administrators and educators in our schools and district offices. These are serious subjects, and I understand the urgency that many of you are experiencing tonight. I just want you to know we hear you guys. My ask tonight is that we have understanding, respect, and compassion, because at the end of the day, we're talking about real people. We're talking about our families, we're talking about our friends, our neighbors who are or will be affected by all of these issues. We're talking about people's livelihoods, literally in some cases. We have to be mindful that when people come and advocate about saving or talking about their areas of interest, that others are here also to advocate about theirs as well. We as a board wish we did not have to make these budget decisions because of our state legislators failing to properly fund our kids, but this is the situation we're in. I hope we all strive here tonight to be understanding and empathetic of one another and know that we might not get it right all the time, but know that each and every one of us are here tonight to do right by our kids. There was some advice that I got when I got to the school board, and what was told to me is that you're not there to be right. You're there to try to make it right. And I truly believe that is what we're all here trying to do. Thank you. All right. Superintendent, would you like to introduce our performers tonight?
That would make me very happy, Chair Hollins. Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome Fair Sol Reeves, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, from Grant High School, and Matilda Schmidt from Lincoln High School, both from the theater programs. Let's give them our full attention as they perform for us this evening.
Just real quick, on behalf of the theater educator, Trisha Todd, for shepherding this talent, we are centering 2 students who have committed to theater arts education. And so we're really excited to showcase them. Trisha Todd is in rehearsal back at Grant High School. And so I'm here to introduce her lovely student. Thank you.
I will be performing a monologue from Antigone, which was written in 441 BCE by Sophocles, in which you see a young and defiant Antigone who enrages her uncle King Creon by defying his decree and burying her rebellious younger brother because her loyal other brother got a proper burial. She chooses her loyalty to the gods over her loyalty to her king, which results in her being sentenced to death. In this speech to King Creon, she is trying to make him understand why she did what she did. Yes, because I did not believe that Zeus was the one who had proclaimed it. Neither did justice or the gods of the dead who justice lives among. The laws they have made for men are well marked out. I did not suppose your decree had strength enough, or you, who are human, to violate the lawful traditions the gods have not written merely, but made infallible. These laws are not for now or for yesterday. They are alive forever, and no one knows when they were shown to us first. I did not intend to pay before the gods for breaking these laws because of my fear of one man and his principles. I was thoroughly aware I would die before you proclaimed it. Of course, I would die even if you hadn't. Since I will die, and early, I call this profit. Anyone who lives the troubled life I do must benefit from death. No, I do not suffer from the fact of death. But if I had let my own brother stay unburied, I would have suffered all the pain I do not feel now. And if you decide what I did was foolish, you may be fool enough to convict me too. Thank you.
That was incredible. Thank you so much. First of all, good evening, and thank you to the board and to Portland Public Schools for always supporting the visual and performing arts. It's been incredible to see so much talent. It's my honor, Peyton Chapman, Principal, Lincoln High School, to introduce Matilda Schmidt. I met Matilda in 8th grade when she came and said, I plan to be on your stage all the time, and she has. So she's incredible talent, and please enjoy Matilda Schmidt.
Good afternoon, everyone. I will be performing If I Loved You from the musical Carousel. This was one of my audition songs for college, so I hope you all enjoy. If I loved you, time and again I would try to say all I'd want you to know. If I loved you, words wouldn't come in an easy way. Round in circles I go, longing to tell you, but afraid and shy. I'd let my golden chances pass me by. Soon you'd leave me, off you would go in the mist of day, never, never to know. I love you. If I loved you. Thank you.
Oh, wow. All right. That was awesome.
That was amazing.
Oh, man. Okay. So let's give Ferry and Mathilda another round of applause, please. Great job. Thank you again for your wonderful performance. This week, we have Classified and Non-Representative Employees Appreciation Week. Dr. Huss, would you like to introduce this item?
Excuse me, yes, Chair Holland, I would, and I forgot to tell you, when you offered me this assignment, I get very sentimental watching kids perform, so I'm trying to be sure I can read the script. Through my career as a teacher, principal, superintendent, and variety of other positions that I held, I've been truly, really blessed and very, very happy to be able to work with outstanding employees, both classified and non-represented, who are not only critical to fostering student engagement and support throughout their learning, but they run all the essential behind-the-scenes functions that schools count on to create great environments in which students thrive. It's evident to me as I've been in schools, as I've been watching the work getting done in this district for the last 2 weeks plus, that our classified and non-represented staff are really very beloved in members of our school community. Tonight, to introduce this resolution is Chief Human Resources Officer Sharon Reith. Sharon?
Good evening, Superintendent Husk. Thank you. Board and Student Director Silverstein. I'm pleased to be here with you tonight in celebration of our classified and non-represented employees. In front of you for your consideration is a resolution honoring these amazing employees. I think you know, but it bears repeating, that our classified employees are represented by our Amalgamated Transit Union, our District Council of Unions, the Portland Federation of School Professionals, and Service Employees International Union. These hardworking employees ensure our buildings are safe and clean. They transport our students. They serve meals. They assist families. They read to students. They provide many, many direct supports to students. Also recognized during this week are our non-represented employees. This group of employees serves in roles both in our schools and in our central offices, ensuring employees are hired, that payroll runs, that our technology is working, that district curriculum and materials are deployed, that students are attending school, that construction projects are managed, among countless other services. So I always love celebrating students and celebrating employees. So settle in a little bit, because I want to take a moment to introduce you to two of our longest tenured employees who are here with us. Every year we celebrate and honor employees who have reached 5-year milestones. I have two of them here in person today who have reached 45 years. Right? And I'm going to invite Principal Chapman, if she's still here, because she's right there. Come sit next to me. Roger Hastings, celebrating his 45th year at PPS, is the head custodian at Lincoln High School and has been there since 2018. Roger was hired as a part-time high school student in the spring of 1975 and worked at Richmond for 3 years. After graduating from Benson in 1979, he became a custodian. During his time with PPS, he has worked as part of the mower and carpet crews. A little throwback there. Worked at Marshall High School, Vestal and Laurelhurst Elementary Schools, as well as Tubman and Jackson Middle Schools. Principal Chapman, did you have anything you wanted to say about Mr. Hastings?
I would love to. Thank you for the opportunity. One thing I just want to notice is that Mr. Hastings is here with a Go Cards mask on it. Incredible school spirit, always. But for those of you who don't know the general day, Roger shows up and he makes sure the campus downtown is clean, and that's a sweep outside and to make sure everything's safe for the students. He is then right at the inside of the doors, welcoming people, making sure that everything is as it should be. But he's also one of the leads and supervisors who works as he's talking, as he's teaching his team, and as he's modeling that all for students too. He is a very hardworking person. And just imagine if you had 1,600 people at your house every day for lunch. the kind of support you would want. And we have a small team, but a really well-led team, thanks to Roger, because even the best guests do spill some food or drop a glass or aren't perfect guests. So we just, on behalf of 1,600 students and 150 adults plus guests who are in our building, we all want to thank Roger Hastings for his incredible dedication, his longevity, his hard work, and the care in which he supports and guides and models the best behavior students. So thank you very much, Roger. He grows incredible giant zucchinis in his garden, too.
I also want to introduce you to Jill Carter Baker. Jill's principal couldn't be here this evening, so I'm going to stand in for her. With Jill is her daughter this evening as well. We all know that nobody comes to work just as a single person. You come with your friends and family and everything with you, not physically, but backing you, and that's how we show up. Jill is also celebrating her 45th year with PPS. She is an educational assistant at Woodmere, where she's been for the last 7 years, better known to the kindergarten she works with as Ms. Jill. Ms. Jill is a beloved fixture of the Woodmere community. She has worked with staff who were once her students, cycled through, and her experience and dedication are unmatched. Mr. Graham, the kindergarten teacher who works with Jill, says, Jill is an incredibly passionate educator who takes such personal ownership and responsibility for students' learning. Teresa Fenning is a parent with 2 adult children who attended Beach during the 30 years that Miss Jill was a part of the Beach team. And she shared, Miss Jill was an amazing kindergarten EA with my 2 kids. They have such kind memories of her. Miss Jill, thank you for being here tonight and for your 45 years of service. We have a little gift recognition for both Roger and Jill. You want to stand up? Yes. This is Miss Jill. Roger, can you stand up too? Mr. Roger. Oh, who grows big zucchini? So here is a little gardening. Although they could not be here with us tonight, I also want to recognize 3 other employees who are hitting 45 and 40 milestone years. Rob Karen is a head custodian at Franklin High School. He's worked there since 2007 and reached his 45th year this year. He also began as a part-time custodian in the late 70s, graduated from Marshall in 1978, and began at Franklin the very same year working on what they called at the time outside grounds. He was a rover in the mid-late 80s, and he has visited and worked at every school at some point over his years of service. He consistently shares his vast knowledge and willingly offers guidance and mentorship to those advancing in their careers. So we wanted to honor his 45 years, even though he could not be in attendance this evening. And then we have two employees celebrating their 40th years. John Bryant, also a head custodian at Benson Tech, home of the Astros. John has served at Ockley and Mount Tabor Middle Schools, Marshall, McDaniel, and Lincoln High Schools. You see a pattern in our amazing custodians here. And watching from home tonight, Stetson James is one of our senior managers of facilities, celebrating his 40th year. He, just like Rob and Roger, is also a product of PPS, having graduated from Benson High School. Stetson began as a custodian at Wells in 1984, became a FOM in 2007. He's worked as a special crew custodian and a head custodian. Stetson shared that what he loves most about his job is working with his colleagues to define goals and development plans, encouraging team members to seek development beyond their current position. Frank Levitt Our Director of Facilities, sitting next to Roger this evening, shares that Stetson encourages everyone to be the best they can be and leads by example. He is immensely respected in the PPS community and is a go-to for all things facilities. So thank you, Stetson, watching from home, for your 40 years of service. This is just a sampling of the amazing employees that work in Portland Public Schools. So I want to thank all of our classified and non-represented employees that are being honored this week, with a special shout out to everyone reaching a milestone this year. The whole list of them is in board books and published on our recognition page. And I want to thank the Board of Directors for your consideration of this resolution honoring these employees this evening.
Thank you, thank you. All right. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 6862?
So moved. Second.
Director Brim Edwards, motion. Director Wong, seconds. Is there any board discussion?
I just wanted to say thank you to Rob, because he's at my school. And I think there are just so many people who know him by name, and he really is a vital part of our community. And he just entirely improves Franklin. I think you can stop anyone in the hall and they know who he is and they can list something he's done for them, because that's the type of person he is.
I want to share that I heard a statistic once about custodians in buildings, and that it was most custodians know every student by name. And I thought that was really impressive. So thank you for your service.
So yesterday was my son's birthday and today's my daughter's birthday, which meant I went back through their baby books and looked, part of that was looking through their 18 years at PPS. And I can't tell you how many pictures there were and memories they had of the classified staff and the staff that provided support in their buildings, not just their teachers. And it just left me with the reminder that it's the whole school community that supports our kids, not just when they're in the classroom, but the moment they arrive at school to the moment they leave, and sometimes even before and sometimes even after that. So I just want to thank everyone who provides supports to our students in very different ways.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else? All right, Ms. Bradshaw, is there any public comment?
There is. We have Alyssa Pollard. Oop, sorry.
Hello. My name is Alyssa Pollard, she, her. I am the occupational therapist on the PPS Assistive Technology team, recently unassigned for next school year as of February 16th. I first want to take this time to acknowledge the dedication and the passion of our classified employees in all of our unions and who work extremely hard to ensure that our students experience a safe, meaningful, and equitable education. They do this despite often not making a living wage in the city that they work and live in. They do this despite experiencing unsafe staffing ratios, injuries, inadequate or non-existent training, and untenable workloads. They are some of the hardest working people and deserve recognition. To that point, to declare this week, a week after which so many classified employees have received unassignment letters, some with no projected placement for next year, as a classified appreciation week rings hollow and disingenuous. Some of the very people receiving years of experience, years of service recognition have gotten notifications that they will be bumped out of their community, that their jobs have been reduced or eliminated entirely. This is an odd way to show appreciation. Furthermore, the district's decision to make deep cuts to special education, specialty teams, including but not limited to assistive technology, feeding, adapted PE, cultural and linguistic diversity support, and more, will have an immense direct impact on our students and classified staff's ability to support them. I have written to you twice now about the cuts to our specialty teams and the impacts to our students with the highest level of need. Cuts to teams with specialized knowledge in assistive technology will negatively impact the ability of our classified staff to support student access to learning, communication, and literacy opportunities in schools. These factors directly relate to the achievement gap between students with and without disabilities and our graduation rates. Eliminating a team with expertise in complex feeding needs will place our paraeducators in a perilous position when it comes to gambling with our students' lives during meal times at school. Despite the memo that was quietly released by our Chief of Student Support Services, our itinerant occupational therapists and speech-language pathologists do not have the capacity nor the adequate training to take on these specialty areas and train our classified staff in a way that is meaningful and safe. Make no mistake, cuts to our assistive technology and feeding teams, as well as adapted and PE and other teams, is not a decentralization of resources. It is an elimination of resources. The cuts slated for next year directly impact our classified staff's ability to implement free and appropriate public education for all students under IDEA. I implore the district leadership to examine the way we are honoring our classified staff during this week, whether it is with words or with actions, and to please reconsider the cuts to our specialty teams and student-facing staff. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any additional public comment?
No.
All right. The board will now vote on 6862. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 All opposed? Are there any abstentions? Student Director Silverstein, please indicate your vote.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 6862 is approved by a vote of 7-0 with Student Director Silverstein voting yes. Next, we're going to have Student Director Silverstein's report, Student District Report.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to wish everyone a happy Women's History Month. Just seeing all of the women in leadership positions here has been really inspiring for me. So thank you for your service. But I also want to extend my gratitude to the women who aren't in leadership positions, because there are historical and existing barriers to getting women into these roles. And I think that recognizing the contributions of women needs to start at home, because women make up a lot of unpaid care work in the US. So I guess I just kind of want to give a broad thank you to women in every role, because we are important and we deserve recognition, especially in those traditionally feminine roles that oftentimes are not valued. Then moving on to district stuff. For District Student Council, we are hosting our Student Summit this Thursday, March 7th. We're really excited about that, and I know many PPS students are attending, so thank you if you signed up, and we're excited to see you. And then moving on to my celebrations and things to look forward to. These are they're caught by word of mouth, so hopefully they're accurate. But Franklin, our theater program, is performing one-act plays on March 7th, 8th, and 9th, I believe. Our mock team is going to state. McDaniel, they wanted me to talk about how they hosted a BSU assembly, which was really successful, and I heard great things about that. They've been having issues with long lunch lines, so their student leaders there have been talking with PPS Nutritional Services about getting incentives for lunch helpers to help increase staffing there. Jefferson, their girls basketball team, is very successful, and they're going to the playoffs. I think it's this Thursday. Wells, they have people in Big Question Debate going to nationals. Grant, they have their musical Grease, and they're performing that right now. Their boys basketball team is going to state, and their varsity mock trial team placed at regionals. Also, they are the first school to have compost bins out in the cafeteria, which was a student-led initiative that I really want to celebrate. And then Lincoln, their chess team placed second at state. So I think there are a lot of things to celebrate and look forward to here. I always want to recognize the contributions of our PPS students, But we also have some frustrations, and I'm just going to kind of go down those because they're things that people have been bringing to me. So first of all, this has been a topic for a long while, but around bathroom design, and this is a current conversation at Franklin because many schools have all gender neutral bathrooms, at least in the high schools, but at Franklin we don't, and so a lot of non-binary students have been expressing frustration about the fact that the only gender neutral bathrooms we have are single stall, and they're very limited, which means long wait times for them. Yeah, and just so that was something that people wanted me to make the broader community aware of. Also, as we're going into budgeting season, I think students are really anxious about that. We are feeling the impacts. And so I think students are really excited to get some more clarity around what is happening there, how those decisions were made, and what that's actually going to look like in terms of changes of staffing. So yeah, I mean, again, I just want to thank all the PPS students for everything you're doing each day, even if all that is just going to school, because that in itself takes a lot of work. And so I see your anxiety and I want to recognize that. And as always, please, if you ever want to reach out, my email is fsilverstein@pps.net, and I'm here to listen to your concerns.
Thank you, Student Director Silverstein. I also want to add that Benson Girls is going to the playoffs as well. And I heard that Roosevelt Boys is going to the playoffs as well. So yes, we are. Just want to put that out there. All right. Interim Superintendent Dr. Husk, heard you have a report for us this evening.
Yes, my third week in Portland Public, and I'm continuing to go through a pretty rapid onboarding of getting to understand what the issues are, who the people are, and counting a lot on past leadership and the handoff they gave me of the process that we're in the middle of. I just wanted to say a couple of things tonight about process, because I'm finding enormous talent in this community, in the school district and in the community. I also think it's a community that is very passionate about their schools, about their feelings, about their values. It makes it sometimes an opportunity for how do we honor all those different perspectives while we continue to do the work of making sure that academic achievement and graduation rates and attendance are focused on by all the employees and all the students. We currently are in the, I wanted to say one other thing. It is possible to have a very deep appreciation of all employees and to have an annual celebration of Classified Appreciation Week and still have to be delivering really hard to deliver news about budget cuts. It is possible to have both things be true at the last time. I'd like to have some respect so I can finish my comments. I would also like to say that I have had multiple conversations with communities that disagree with budget cuts. This is my third time in my 18 years as superintendent of having to leave really significant budget cuts with a board and a very thoughtful staff that are trying to figure out the best way to navigate. And we're in the middle of the process. So there will be a lot of concerns going forward. I welcome you telling me what the concerns are. I will encourage everyone to get an answer to your concerns, but I will tell you, sometimes we're going to have to disagree because we're facing an enormous budget deficit. And I also want to hope you understand that what we normally would have 12 months to do in a budget process is happening in a very intense amount of time because of labor negotiations that we just finished with. So I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to be here. I'm happy to be here.
If y'all keep talking, I promise you we will leave. We are not going to have the outburst. We are not going to be disrespectful. I believe that everyone deserves the right to be heard. In the same way, I don't want us disrupting you when you talk. You cannot disrupt us. Again, if you outburst again while people are talking, we will get up and leave, and y'all can yell and fight with yourselves, but you won't yell and fight with us. We have a job to do.
I'd like to clarify my statement. I'm not making any criticism of where we've been. I'm very, very happy that we were able to give raises to people and we were able to get closure on contracts. I'm very happy about that. I'm just stating that our timing on this is very, very tight. So I love to hear the passion. I love to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have student comments. No, we have student public comments. So Ms. Bradshaw, do we have any students signed up to speak?
We do.
Okay.
We have Laura Mordai, Sarah Farqui, and then Chloe Gilmore, Naila Lewis, and Hannah Fairs are sharing a spot.
All right, so before we begin, I just want to review the guidelines for a public comment. This will go for our student comments and our regular public comments. So first, we all thank you for taking your time to attend the meeting and providing your comments. Public input informs and improves our work, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts and reflections while you're at the diocese. Our board offices may follow up on board-related issues. Thank you. On board-related issues during public testimony. We request that complaints about individual employees be directed to the superintendent office as a personnel matter. If you have additional materials or items you would like to provide to the board or superintendent, we ask that you email them to public comments, all one word, at pps.net. That's public comments at pps.net. Please make sure when you begin your comments that you clearly state your name and spell your last name. You will have 3 minutes to speak. You will hear a sound after 3 minutes, which means you'll have an additional 30 seconds to wrap up your comments. All right. Leave it up to you.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Laura Mordai, Morodai. I go to Benson Polytechnic High School.
Benson! I always do that.
Today, I'm here to talk about the ongoing genocide in Palestine. In our classes, we are taught to call this the Israel-Hamas conflict, but it's really a genocide in Palestine. Since the 1948 Nakba, Palestine has been illegally and violently occupied by Israeli settlers. The UN has even recognized this as a breach of international law. This is much older than October 7th. Every day, my modern world history teacher plays CNN 10 to cover the topics going on in the world. In October, my teacher decided to do a mini lesson on the Israel-Hamas conflict. It was very brief. It didn't cover the fatality rate, the displacement of millions, the restricted livings of Palestinians, the illegal kidnapping, the IDF soldiers occupying civilian homes just because, or the fact that Palestinians cannot leave or enter the Gaza Strip. Had my teacher taught these things, it would have turned so many heads in my class. The only thing the lesson taught me was that none of my peers care, because none of them know, and it's your fault. And in order for my peers to care, they have to be educated. A few days ago, my history class watched CNN 10 and a cover story on Sudan played. Someone in my class asked, "Why don't we learn about this? It seems huge." A student answered. One of the many statements he made was that it was uninteresting, boring, and nobody wants to cover events that happen over and over again. Not only was this blatantly racist and dehumanizing, it also affected someone personally, me, a Sudanese student. My teacher didn't interfere because she was ill-equipped to handle racist, harmful information being said, and I was left feeling ignored and unheard. This begs the question in me, how many Palestinian students attend school in the PPS district, and do they feel ignored? Do they feel unheard? This is the direct teachings of Western white supremacist biases teachers learn in the education systems and how you apply it to our education systems today. Did you know that it would take you at least 73 years to attend every funeral of a Palestinian that died in this genocide? That's every day for 73 years. Did you know that while we were watching the Super Bowl on February 11th, Israel bombed Rafah, a 24-square-mile city that held 1.4 million displaced Palestinians? When I'm scrolling on Instagram or TikTok, my algorithm is filled with Palestine-related information. I go hours searching for more and wondering why the place that is supposed to teach me this is failing me, why it's failing so many students like me. When are you going to acknowledge what's going on in Palestine and Sudan? When are you going to acknowledge the presence of Palestinian and Sudanese families here in PPS? When are you going to start caring? When are my peers going to be taught about this genocide? Do better and cease fire.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Zara Faruqi. That's Faruqui. I'm a freshman at Benson High School, and I've been a part of the PPS community since kindergarten. And in the decade I have been here, I have never been as disappointed in this district as I am right now. Back on October 11th, PPS sent out an email addressing the ongoing genocide in Palestine. However, they didn't call it that, instead addressing the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas. The word Palestine wasn't mentioned a single time in this email, and instead of attaching resources to educate us on ethnic cleansing, all you did was give us resources to recognize terrorism. Now, the blatant Islamophobia wasn't the only thing that bothered me about this response, but rather the pure hypocrisy of it all. When Ukraine was attacked, you did exactly what you were supposed to do: offer support and provide resources to those who had been affected by said conflict. Yet when the genocide is that of Palestinians, not only have you refused to take a stance on whether genocide is wrong or not, you have purposefully gone out of your way to silence support of Palestine in your buildings, demanding that posters in support of a ceasefire be torn down and teachers stay silent, because you have deemed a matter of basic human rights too political to be shown in classrooms. And that begs the question, where have you decided to draw the line between controversy and justice? What has stripped Palestinian children of their right to live in your eyes, striving to think that the only solution is to keep your stance neutral? And the thing is, your humanity isn't the only thing that should be compelling you to break your silence. It's the law. Oregon Senate Bill 664 makes it clear that genocide education should be implemented into the curriculum of all schools. Genocide scholars have already come to the conclusion that what we are witnessing is exactly what this bill is referencing: genocide. A school district's job is not only to educate, but prepare us to make a change in the world. We are watching history unfold right before our eyes, and you are too afraid to let us see it, too afraid to let us change it. In 10, 15, 100 years, when we realize that we're wrong decades too late, just like history always has, what will we say? How will this district stand in front of the generations that come after us who beg to know why you are complicit in genocide? Will you say that there wasn't anything you could have done, that it was simply out of your hands? Or do you admit that your neutrality was compliance, that you had purposely sided with violence because peace was too controversial to you? That regret can be prevented now. All you had to do is make the simple decision to say something. Break your silence and stop drowning out our voices to keep it. Make a better future for us all. Thank you, and have a great evening. PPS students trust you, and I hope you make the right decision.
Thank you, thank you. Dr. Kara, do we have any other public comments?
We do. It looks like they're coming up right now. They were called already.
Hello, I'm Henna Fares, Fares.
Hi, my name is Chloe Gilmore, Gilmore.
My name is Naila Lewis, Lewis.
Hello, PPS board members, and thank you for this opportunity to speak today. We are students from Lincoln High School, a group called Students for Peace, and we are passionate about justice and human rights, both locally and internationally. We fully support the over 5,900 letters sent to the school board started by PPS Workers for Palestine. Students across PPS will be walking out of class in protest, and we have 3 main demands.
Our first demand is to release a district-wide statement condemning the genocide in Gaza, honoring the over 30,000 Palestinian martyrs killed by the state of Israel in the past 5 months, and calling for an immediate ceasefire. On October 11th, 2023, PPS released an original statement recognizing the Israeli lives lost. But there was no mention of Israel's murderous attacks on Gaza, apartheid, and left theft that oppressed my people for over 75 years. Now, under 5 months after the original statement, over 30,000 Palestinian civilians have been murdered and over 71,000 were injured. As a Palestinian student, my feelings are usually ignored, contrary to some of my Israeli classmates. Sometimes I keep my identity to myself because students will be overly aggressive to me if I share. The school district has not created an environment where I can share who I am or even talk about the situation. It's clear that the district cares more about the Israeli perspective, given the only statement made about the conflict was through the lens of Israeli suffering. According to the Integrated Food Security and Nutrition Phase Classification, a report in late December, 100% of Gazans are facing levels of starvation, and 576,600 people are chronically starving under Israel's blockage of food, water, and humanitarian aid. PPS has proved that they only see the oppressor's side of the war by failing to recognize the state of Israel is attempting to exterminate all Palestinians and create an ethos state from river to the sea, according to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I am furious that PPS administrators undermine the Palestinian perspective, centering on Israeli families, and I demand PPS release a statement that honors and highlights the Palestinian perspective.
Our second demand is to cut all current and future ties with companies and organizations complicit in the violent settler colonial occupation of Palestine. According to PPS contract records, PPS has a contract with SHI International, and this company is complicit in Israel's human rights abuses because it is one of HP's incorporated top partners. HP aids Israeli police and state surveillance that restricts the movement of Palestinians by implementing a racially segregated biometric ID system under apartheid. We asked for a commitment to refuse future contracts with companies on the BDS movement list at bdsmovement.net. We asked that PPS mentions boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement in their public statement to inform Portlanders that they can be in solidarity, and education institutions across the country, such as UC Riverside, have already divested, and we need to do the same.
Our last but not final demand is education. We are wanting education for students and PPS staff members on the genocide occurring in Gaza, the Israeli occupation, and settler colonialism. This includes hosting mandatory trainings for educators where the voices of Palestinian community members are uplifted. Anti-racist lessons about Palestinian liberation need to be taught in all grade levels. We call on PPS to end the censorship and silencing of Palestinian solidarity. Again, we call on PPS to end the censorship and silencing of Palestinian solidarity. According to a policy updated in 2021 by the district, PPS is committed to adopting a, quote, racial, equity, and social justice lens in all decisions, quote, yet your decisions say otherwise. Students are disappointed in the intentional silence and complicity, which is not only failing the international fight for justice, but more immediately, the Palestinian students, staff members, and families you have ostracized and endangered within the PPS district. We urge you as a school board members to take urgent action and take a stand for human rights and against genocide, in addition to protecting community members within the school district. Thank you.
Thank you guys again for your comments. Please feel free to contact our senior board manager, Roseanne Powell, if you have something specifically you want to follow up with the board or our office. I'm gonna ask you guys not to keep bringing stuff up while we're in the middle of the meeting.
I know, I'm very excited.
Okay, can you just hand them to, you can hand them to her, yeah, no worries, no worries. Yeah, in the future, anything you guys need to hand to, can you please hand them to our board manager so that way she can distribute them out to all of us. All right, next up, I'm excited for this next item. I think it's important that we continue to take time to celebrate and uplift our wonderful school communities as often as possible. Superintendent Dr. Husk, would you like to introduce our school spotlight?
Thank you, Chair Hollins. Tonight, we're very pleased to have Joanne Watkins here to talk about Cleveland High School and highlight some of the wonderful things happening in her community. Principal Watkins is beginning her 4th year as principal at Cleveland, following 17 years working at Lincoln, both as a teacher and a vice principal. Welcome, Principal Watkins.
It is certainly my pleasure to be here and to really highlight the work that the incredible team and students do at Cleveland High School. I have a student here with me as well and a staff member that I'd like to have come forward. They're going to share part of the exciting work that we're doing at Cleveland. I'm also going to set up some technology. Yeah, come on up. Yeah. Nice yellow.
And then my name is Isaac Camacho, he, him, his pronouns, and I'm the student attendance coach at Cleveland High School.
Hello, I am Cielo Jimenez Garcia. I am the student body president of Care Leadership and as well as the president of Latinx Student Union, and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm going to share a screen. There we go. I'm going to use this microphone. Okay, where is it? I think this is not. Are you going to? I think Margaret Calvert is going to share this so we can go through it. Here we go. I apologize.
No worries, no worries.
Do you need me to get out of the Zoom meeting then? Okay. There we go. And then we go to. All right. Yay. There we are. All right. Cleveland High School. So wanted to start off. Will this work? Okay. Wanted to start off and talk about like who we are, and there's some representative pictures. I know Director Sullivan had the opportunity to visit our school, and if you haven't, I think the place is abuzz with student activity, and really I think speaks to the student voice that we've tried to elevate at our school. So you see a picture next to a very large mural done by our LSU. Our freshman physics classes getting ready to bungee jump a stuffed rabbit. We have IB math applications class looking at comparing fuel rates and usage in cars. And then two of our wonderful staff members that work with our students, Nikki Trueblood, who is our college coordinator, and Kenny DeWeese, our career coordinator. And I think as I walked around today, it's just I think you see a sense of joy in learning and being in community together. I wanted to highlight the mission statement of our school, and and in particular, a place where students find learning that inspires their passion, and how this is aligned with the IB learner profile. Cleveland High School is an IB World School, and this learner profile is aligned with the PPS graduate portrait, and it really informs all the work that we're doing at Cleveland High School. Then I wanted to highlight as well this year the goals in our school continuous improvement plan. These goals are informed not only by our data, but also our recent accreditation. And so we're highlighting, we want our students to increase their capacity for academic risk-taking, creativity, curiosity, collaboration, and design thinking as measured by the Student Engagement Instrument and the Successful School Survey. So really around how are our students engaging in our community. And then goals 2 and 3 is our focus on our core classes and having our students achieve satisfactory marks, but also that the grades in our school are non-predictive by race, special education status, or ELL status. And so I wanted to highlight the last 3 years of graduation data, which represents the time that I've been the principal at Cleveland High School. And we're certainly very proud of the growth that we have seen in our graduation rate. And in particular, the growth that we're seeing in our subgroups. And I want to highlight in particular our Latinx group, whose graduation rate was actually greater than our overall graduation rate. And I was so happy to see that statistic that I went to the LSU lunchtime meeting to share with the students. And Adrian, who was pictured earlier in that picture by the murals, was like, he goes, "Now we got to do 100%, Principal Watkins." And I said, "You guys can do it. You can do it." And so our academic programs are highlighted with our International Baccalaureate Diploma program, as well as our career technical education strands that we have. And that's a picture today I took from our culinary arts class. We have rich and varied visual and performing arts, English language development, and those are the world languages that we offer. And you'll see that we offer IB options pretty much across the board in each of these areas. So I think one thing that really is some important work that we've done as a school is adopted IB for all. This is not a program of classes that students elect to take. In fact, all of our juniors will take IB English Language and Literature or IB English Literature for their English credit. All of our juniors take IB History of the Americas for their US History credit, and they take IB Biology for their biology credit. Now the SL stands for standard level, which indicates the amount of curriculum that's covered, and HL is higher level, which indicates more curriculum that's covered. And then in the senior year, students continue on, and their senior English class is an IB English class. And this work started really by seeing a gap in how our students were doing in non-IB English in the junior year as compared to students who elected to take IB English in the junior year. And at that time, what the staff saw was that there was like a 50% failure rate for students in the non-IB English. Now, all of our students are IB English students, and we're seeing tremendous success with that. And we have, from that initial work, moved on to adding 2 more subjects. So all of our juniors are taking 3 IB subjects. And many of the seniors, besides taking IB English in the senior year, take additional IB courses. And so then there we go, I wanted to share, let me go back, wanted to share some of that data for you. That in this year's class, 65 of our seniors, or 17% of our senior class, are what is known as full IB diploma candidates. They're going to earn an international baccalaureate. We have 173 additional seniors. They're taking 1 or more IB exams, so that's 64% of our seniors. And 270 seniors are taking 3 or more IB classes, and that's 72% of our senior class. And last year, with our graduates. What I want to highlight is that average score earned by diploma candidates of 4.74 out of 7. Students earn college credit when they make a 4 or higher on the IB exams. And we had 320 students testing last year, and we administered over 1,080 IB exams. And so, and that's a picture actually from our IB extended essay workshop. What they did is each of our diploma candidates presented their extended essays, original research that they did, and this is the group picture that they took at the culmination of that event. And if you didn't go this year, go next year. You're going to see some amazing student work. So really, our continuing work is that we're data-driven. We see this in our work to support our students in SIT, that's the Student Intervention Team, our Student Success Team at the 9th grade level, and our Instructional Leadership Team. We're maintaining a focus on core academics, emphasizing student inquiry. We recognize the interconnectedness of school climate and culture and academic success, and we elevate student voice in a variety of ways. Care Leadership is our leadership class. That's Cleveland Alliance for Racial Equity. We have a Consent and Culture class, student racial affinity groups, our Sexuality and Gender Alliance group, Mental Health Advocacy Club, and with our modernization process now and our Comprehensive Planning Committee, student voice is elevated. And I wanted to highlight some of the work that is being done to build student community, especially with our Latinx students.
Esteemed members of the school board, I am here today representing the Latinx Student Union at Cleveland High School. At the heart of our efforts lies a commitment to autonomy, belonging, and fostering a sense of competence among our students. We believe in empowering them to embrace their identities, celebrate their cultural heritage, and educate others about it, inspiring them to strive for excellence in all endeavors. One of these initiatives is our annual cultural fair during Hispanic Heritage Month, where we come together to showcase the richness and diversity of Latinx culture. This event not only celebrates our heritage, but also serves as a platform for fostering cross-cultural understanding and appreciation among Cleveland. In addition to our cultural celebrations, we engage in fundraising activities such as Tamale and Valentine's Day concha sales. These efforts not only generate funds for our club, but also cultivate a sense of pride and ownership among our students as they actively contribute to improving our community. With each sale, they reclaim their agency and assert their presence in a world that too often seeks to diminish their worth. Furthermore, we place great emphasis on leadership development by providing our students with opportunities to attend prestigious conferences such as the Cesar E. Chavez Leadership Conference, organized by Western Oregon University, and the Educate Conference, organized by Portland State University. This provides some of our students with the opportunity to be the first in their families to set foot on a university campus. Over the past 3 years, over 50 students have had the opportunity to participate in these conferences, where they are welcomed by hundreds of peers and professionals who share similar cultural backgrounds, a unique experience not readily available at Cleveland. These experiences empower, inspire, and educate our students, equipping them with the skills and confidence needed to return and lead at Cleveland, driving positive change in our Latinx community for generations to come. And I'm now honored to invite Cielo Jimenez Garcia to share her testimony as her journey the last 3 years as a member and now the president of Latinx Student Union.
Hello. I just want to talk about the impact that Cleveland has done for me. I was a freshman during COVID and I had no sense of community. As you guys may know, our school is majority white, so I was threatened. When I was in middle school, I challenged my mom by telling her, I can't go to this school. I want to go somewhere else, somewhere more diverse. But thankfully, this school has a lot of affinity groups and a lot of welcoming affinity groups. I remember stepping in and being so threatened that I told my mom that I was not going to graduate. I was probably going to follow the footsteps of my cousins and not graduate on time. But thanks to the community that we have created, I am now able and proudly say that I go to Cleveland High School, that I am the student body president, and that I'm the president of Latinx, and that I have done so much fun things. I've had my mom come over and just cook with us. As you can see up there, that's my mom trying to teach everybody how to make tamales. And and she's a wonderful person. We just saw how close we were getting. We don't just welcome Latinx students to our club. We welcome people that just want to be a part of something. We have Asian students, Black students, white students. We have every type of student there that wants to be a part of a community, and we welcome them. We put music, we bring food. If they want to go on a field trip, we're like, let's plan it. Let's start fundraising. You want to go to the beach and collect trash? Fine, let's go to the beach and collect trash. And Isaac is a really wonderful being. I know I give him a hard time because I just walk in there, I'm like, give me some snacks right now, I'm hungry. But he really does put in the effort. He finds these opportunities that I could never think I would be a part of. And this opens a door for many generations, especially for my siblings, because I'm a first generation Hispanic that's gonna graduate. And thank you. And through my time, I've seen that there hasn't been so much motivation in minority groups. So whenever we have events going on, it's, you better be on it. I want you guys to graduate. I think that's how we always start off our meetings. It's are we on task? Are we doing well? If we're not, we're not gonna do these fun things, because we need to persevere in life to have fun things. And it's really, that's my realistic point of view, that if you want something, you have to work hard for it. And that is graduating and motivating people to get their higher educations, which is really important. Even if it means trade, college, work, it really doesn't matter, as long as we show who we are. We, the minority groups, are the people that built the United States. We are the backbone of the United States. So we should be giving those positions that we deserve, especially our ancestors that have gone through so much. And with care leadership, Jan Watt, I almost called you Jan Watt, Ms. Watkins has said, we try our best to talk about these topics, such as the genocide going on in Palestine. We take the time, we educate our teachers, this is how we're gonna handle these situations. We're not gonna silence them, we're gonna handle them this way. So our communities feel heard, especially when you look around and you're like, oh, I'm the only person of color here. I don't feel like I should speak, I shouldn't raise my hand. But we make sure that in school, if you wanna say something, you say it. If you wanna paint a mural that speaks your truth, we're going to paint a mural that speaks our truth. Even if the building's gonna be broken down soon, we're gonna do it again and over and over and over. And that's just something that I really appreciate. Cleveland has opened so many doors for me, especially with the IB Bachelorette diploma as well. I think having it as a requirement, having these classes as a requirement, has been more motivating for a lot of students in the Latinx community. I see them on top of their classes because that's their credit. They need to pass that class to obtain that credit. And it's very structured. I think it's very unique. I've walked into other other high schools and seen that their classes, they always say they're boring, that they're not interested, but when you walk into our IB classrooms, you see experiments being done, you see students in circles, you see students talking to their teachers, you see laughter, smiles when you walk down the hallways, especially with our security guards and stuff like that. We have a very close community there. I think our staffs have tried their best to memorize every student there, and it's just been a wonderful experience at Cleveland.
Again, thank you for giving us this opportunity. I probably really didn't need to speak, and we should have started with Cielo. But it is my pleasure to work with these students and staff at Cleveland High School. And again, thank you for your time.
Excuse me, could I? Could I ask you a question?
Oh.
Could I ask you a question? Actually, I think you answered it, but I was going to ask why you think the IB program has worked, and has it made people feel so much more?
I think it's been working for the reason being that our teachers are trained, and they had their own training done. They know what worked out in the past year, what hasn't worked out in the past years. I have an English teacher that doesn't grade by assignment. He makes us grade ourselves, and we have learning goals. So we set up our own goals, and we focus on those goals. We don't stress about our assignments. If our writing was written bad, if our research was bad, we focus on our goals outside of school, our goals in the classroom, and how we improved overall. And that really motivates students to go to class, because they don't just sit there and think, I have to do really good on this essay or else I'm going to have a really bad grade. They know that if they tried enough and they can prove that they tried enough, they will get and succeed in school.
Okay, thank you.
And I think she's really highlighting the fact that IB is very student-centered. And when I talk about our focus on academics, it's really with that focus around student inquiry and elevating student voice.
It sounds like it just makes the courses interesting, too. Is that right? It's really set up that way. Okay, thank you.
Great, great. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's exactly why we're here. Thank you, Principal Watkins. Next, we will consider a request by the Jason Lee community to undergo a renaming process. Last December, there was a revision to the policy 2.20.010-P, naming school district property, which changed the way by which the school community could request to undergo a renaming process. The policy now requires the board to hear directly from communities their request to undergo a renaming process and take one of three actions. Those actions are: we either direct the superintendent to conduct a renaming process, we decline the request, or we defer the action on the request to a later date. If the school board directs the superintendent to conduct a renaming process, the superintendent will note the staff or financial resources needed to conduct the process. Dr. Huss, would you like to introduce the speakers?
Sure. I would like to introduce Jason Lee Principal, Alma Velasquez, and she is here to present about the renaming process. Joining her are two of our wonderful senior directors this evening. Thank you so much. Assistant Superintendent, thank you.
Good evening. I am Dr. McWinney, Assistant Superintendent, Elementary Schools, Portland Public Schools. And with me this evening, to my right, is Derek Johnston. He is the Senior Director who directly oversees Alma Velasquez, who is the principal at Jason Elementary School. Jason Elementary School has asked to do a renaming for their school, and will let you present her data. Thank you.
Good evening, esteemed directors and Superintendent Dr. Husk. I am here. I am the proud principal of currently named Jason Lee Elementary. Let me figure out some technology first, because I'm trying to see how I can share my slides. Yeah, it's right here. Okay, here we go. Great, thank you for your patience. I'm here tonight, as was said, because our community has come together in the past few months to request that we engage in a process through which we can identify a new name for our school, one that truly represents the multiracial, multicultural community that we are today, with the values that we possess. With me also, with us also through video, are some of our fifth graders who will actually lead the presentation. Their names are Vivian, Isabella, Melody, Mia, Nati, and Precious. And so they are going to be speaking to you through video. Hold on a second. Let me figure out the sound.
To convert Northwestern Indians to Christianity.
Can you put that mic in front of it? Does it bend down so that you can put it?
And assimilate, named after a Canadian.
So there's Seneca.
Our school was named after a Canadian missionary. According to the Oregon Encyclopedia, Jason Lee was the first.
How do I do this? Okay.
Principal Velasquez, I'm wondering for the sake of time, if you'd like to
Yes,
talk us through it.
I
We
can
get
just
the video
talk you
to them
through.
later.
Yes,
if that
of
works
course.
for
I
you.
apologize for that delay. So I do have what they read, so I can just read that. First, the students wanted to provide you some background. Our school was named after a Canadian Methodist missionary. According to the Oregon Encyclopedia, Jason Lee was the first Protestant Christian missionary to the Pacific Northwest and, quote, exemplified the effort to convert Northwest Indians to Christianity and assimilate them into Western culture. Lee played an important role in promoting white settlement in the Willamette Valley, end quote. The Oregon Historical Society tells us that the Kalapuya people in the valley were few in number and not inclined to adopt Christianity. They were also decimated by malaria and smallpox, which came as a result of their exposure to white settlers. Lee was largely insensitive to historic Native culture, as were most missionaries in the West, and he hoped that the Willamette Valley Indians would adopt the dominant practices and beliefs of white Americans if he provided education in a stable white community. Over 15 years ago, former principal Sasha Parents pulled down the plaque that had been hanging in the school's lobby since its founding. The plaque gives us a clue as to the aspects of Jason Lee's work that were being celebrated when they named our school after him. It reads in part, there's much more that we could say about his, it reads in part, he helped to bring statehood to the Oregon Territory and Christian education to all his children, red and white. So again, this was hanging in our lobby until 2008. There's much more that we could say about his actions and the impact they had on the Native people of this region, but we will stop here from now. We are, again, a racially and culturally diverse community. We are not a school represented anymore by the ideals and values of Jason Lee. We're so much more than that. We need a name that inspires us to be the change agents we need to be to create a more socially just world. We want a name that represents not just who we are today, but who we can become in the future. To get to our new name, we will set up a selection committee made up of students, staff, and community members. Students across the school will help to identify the character traits and the values we want to represent in our new name. Students will work on proposals that they will present to the committee. And we will certainly have a student vote to ensure their voice in the decision. Thank you for hearing us, and let us bring our request to you, and I'm ready for questions.
Thank you. Do board have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Just thank you for bringing this, and thank you for the presentation. I did read through all the materials beforehand as well. I'm very supportive of the process you're asking for to go forward and find a new name for your school. Thanks for bringing it forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Are there any public comments? Kara? Oh, sorry. Okay.
Just a clarification on the process. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Yes.
So you'll go through the process, and then a recommendation will be made. The superintendent, maybe you, maybe the next person. And then a recommendation will come to the board. That's the way the new process works.
Say that again?
Is that a statement or a question?
That's a question.
Oh, it's a question.
I'm just clarifying that it'll come back to the board as a recommendation, the new name. Yeah, great.
All right, so that's what we're gonna do on this one. So we're gonna approve the request. Either we're gonna approve it, deny it, or defer it. So,
Would you like a motion to approve it?
yeah, I'm just getting the process together. So we're going to approve it. So we're either gonna approve it, deny it, or defer it, so that will actually be the vote. So we have 3 people approving, or 2 people denying, or defer. We're gonna do that all in one vote piece.
So like a roll call?
Yeah. So do we have a motion to approve, deny, or defer this request?
So moved.
Chair Hollins, I would recommend you do one at a time and perhaps start with approve. If you have all 3, it's not clear which vote applies to which action.
So, right, so I'm guessing what I'm gonna ask is that if all in favor of approving this, say aye, all deny, that works? Okay. All right, so we need a motion.
I moved it.
Second? Okay. So, we're gonna do this in 3 parts. So all in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any denies? And no defers. Any defers? Okay. So the motion is approved by a vote of 7-0-0. All right, that works. Student representative?
Approved.
Approved. Awesome. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. All right, next up we have general public comment. Ms. Bradshaw, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
We do. We have Holly Johnson, Trisha Rhodes, Olivia Madlock, and Pedro Anglada.
All right, since I've already given guidelines for public comments earlier this evening, I'm not going to repeat them. I just want to remind staff who are giving public comments that they may not provide testimony about students that could violate confidentiality protections under FERPA. This includes testimony using information that could identify students, especially in their school community, by the use of direct or indirect linkage, such as school, grade, special education, or other status. Please make sure when you begin your comments that you clearly state your name and spell your last name. Once again, you have 3 minutes to speak. You will hear a sound after 3 minutes, which means you will have 30 seconds to wrap up your comments. And we'll start with you. Yep.
Hi, my name is Holly Johnson, Johnsen. I'm a school counselor at Grant High School, and I'm yielding my time to student Jorge Sanchez.
Thank you. My name is Jorge Sanchez Bautista, SANCHEZ BAUTISTA. Well, thank you for this opportunity to speak. And for everyone knows, most people already probably know who I am, but I am the former student strike liaison for the Portland Association of Teachers, who are right there. Yeah. That's a bit about me. I first want to start with Miss Johnson. Sorry, it feels weird. I want to first start mentioning Miss Johnson's survey that she put out to her fellow students. It wasn't your survey? Oh, my apologies. 5 quotes from students, Grant students. It's not Grant students? Who are these students? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot about that. Okay. So 5 students about the issue about that is occurring right now. First comment, my apologies. I was talking to my friend about what was happening in Gaza. She said a friend of hers had lost every one of her family members that lived in Palestine except for her sister who was in the same country as her. This conversation really put into perspective how real this was because it's so easy to separate it yourself from reality when everything you see is on a phone screen. That is the first. The second, I don't know anyone directly affected, but everyone I know sees what's happening on social media every day, uncensored killing of children and adults, so including myself, we cry a lot, feel pretty helpless, like there's nothing we do that will actually make an impact. The third, and excuse my language, I'm fucking angry. Everyone should be fucking angry. The fourth, I have been feeling depressed lately due to my inability to influence things like the genocide of people in Gaza, as well as an impending fascism in America and anti-trans laws. The fifth one, I feel frustrated because of the misinformation that exists around Palestinians, because of the lack of action from our representatives and president and the resources that are being sent to Israeli forces. I feel angry and sad. These are comments from PPS students from this anonymous survey, correct? Yes. Just a couple of stuff to highlight, Today, tonight, in this evening, we have many people behind me. Folks hear about the budget cuts. People hear about how unions, partners talk at the very end when they are the ones that have to wake up early in the morning as well. Not saying that you don't have to, but, other folks have to as well. And the last part, it's because of what's happening right now with Palestine and Israel. Those are the top three issues right now that people are here for. I hope you acknowledge that.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My issue does not seem as important as that issue. However, it is an important issue. My name is Olivia Madlock, Madlock. I am a parent of 2 children at a PPS school, and I'm here to ask why there are no non-dairy milks in our school. I actually looked it up, and in 2010, 14 years ago, the state approved for the Board of Education. It's right here, actually. I'm not going to read it. It's pretty long, but they approved it in 2010 for us to have soy milk, certain types of soy milk in our school. So I'm just asking, why don't we have those options? There's children that are lactose intolerant. There's children who are vegetarian and vegan. My kids are in kindergarten and in 5th grade and elementary school, but really all adolescents and all children, their nutrition is important, and dairy is not necessarily good for everybody. And so I'm here to ask why we don't have non-dairy milk, and can we get non-dairy milk in schools? And that's pretty much it.
Thank you. That's a question we can probably answer, not tonight, but we'll get that answer to you.
Yeah, great. I would love to know.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, in 2010, the state, it's on the Board of Education. You guys can just Google it. Put it in non-dairy milk Oregon schools. It will pop up. I was literally kind of appalled. I was like, 2010, Oregon, we can do a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Am I good? All right. My name is Trisha Rhodes, Rhoades, and before I get into my speech tonight, I want to congratulate the student speakers. Their voices were clear and powerful, and I hope you take what they said to heart. All right, so tonight I stand before you not only as a dedicated special education teacher of 16 years within this district, but also as a former PPS parent who is deeply troubled by the systemic issues that persist within PPS. And throughout my tenure, I have witnessed changes in curriculum, leadership, and shift in policies. However, a distressing theme has remained consistent, and that is the propensity to overlook the genuine challenges our students face and to rationalize the reduction of direct services as beneficial to them. One such glaring issue is the alarming silence and censorship surrounding discussions about the ongoing genocide in Palestine. As educators, it is our duty to foster critical thinking, promote empathy, and encourage dialogue on global issues that directly impact the lives of our students. However, despite this crucial responsibility, a troubling trend has emerged since October 7th, a trend that seeks to stifle discussions on Palestine and its historical context, particularly regarding the ongoing atrocities. This silencing of educators not only perpetuates a damaging narrative of erasure, complicity, and ableism, but also infringes upon educators' abilities to help our students process their emotions while they witness a genocide on social media. Furthermore, as a special education teacher, I have witnessed firsthand the transformative power of inclusive and culturally responsive education. Our students come from diverse backgrounds, and it is essential that they see themselves reflected in the curriculum and feel empowered to engage with complex and sometimes uncomfortable topics. Disability awareness and social justice are integral aspects of my teaching philosophy, as they involve recognizing and addressing the intersecting oppressions that affect disabled individuals, particularly those from marginalized communities. The Palestinian population includes individuals with disabilities who bear a disproportionate burden of the violence and oppression they endure. This is why it is important for PPS to recognize that it too perpetuates a cycle of harm to disabled students by removing direct services while remaining silent when over 2 million Palestinians are experiencing significant disabilities due to ongoing bombings, diseases, starvation, and PTSD. As a district committed to equity and social justice, why are you not condemning human rights violations and advocating for justice? Why are you not standing in solidarity with our SWANA and disabled communities? By silencing discussion on the Palestine genocide and cutting SPED services, we not only fail our students, but also undermine their ability to critically analyze and understand the world around them. Such actions contradict the very values of equity and justice that we claim to uphold. I implore you, members of the board, to listen to the voices of teachers, students, and community members who are calling for transparency, accountability, and meaningful action.
Thank you.
My name is Pedro Anglada Cordero, A-N-G-L-A-D-A-C-O-R-D-E-R-O. On March 7th, 2023, the PPS board, the superintendent, his legal team, and other district officials held a hearing on an official complaint filed by Susan Anglada Bartley and Teresa Topferova Botman, stating that the district was in violation of failing to implement state law SB 664, which requires school districts to provide students with instruction on the Holocaust and other genocides. Although both Bartley and Botman presented convincing documentation about PPS failures on implementing education about genocide consistently across the district, the PPS board, during the final hearing, closed with a vote of denial in favor of PPS despite their lack of clear evidence presented to sustain their claims. Some of the learning concepts of SB 664 are the following. Prepare students to confront the immorality of the Holocaust, genocide, and other acts of mass violence. Help students gain insight into the importance of the protection of international human rights for all people. Stimulate students' reflection on the roles and responsibilities of citizens to combat misinformation, indifference, and discrimination. Support students to understand the ramifications of prejudice, racism, and stereotyping. In late February, the death toll in Gaza, Palestine, surpassed 30,000 since the start of Israel's military offensive in October. Experts say the majority of those killed are civilians, especially women and children. While there is overwhelming international pressure to call for a ceasefire, and to the end of violence due to the unfolding genocide in Palestine, the acting role and support of the United States government to the State of Israel in committing crimes against humanity creates an environment of confusion and stark division, which undermines attempts to engage in conversations, and in the case of our schools, to educate about the negative impact of mass violence as a present feature of the human experience. Let it be known that the last vote by the board denying the failure of the district on implementing education about genocide is today having a negative impact on our school community. If last year there was no clear plan in place to address this issue, today we know of many cases in schools where educators are targeted for teaching about genocide. In some schools, educators are asked to remove Palestine flags and any posters or resources related to the genocide in Gaza. Often, this is done with the misperception and the framed narrative that a support for Palestine is an act of anti-Semitism. This is why teaching about genocide is such a vital aspect of anti-racist education. Let's not forget that Palestinian children and other children of the Southwest Asian region attend PPS schools. We must hold them high and embrace them in times like this. I'm gonna finish quick. Currently, educators who are advocating for education about genocide are not doing this for the sake of causing disruption. Educators are constantly gathering resources, developing lessons, and helping to educate their colleagues about the subject. We have the will to do this right now. Every single one of us have what it takes to destroy colonialism. Every single student has what it takes to destroy colonialism. Laws about education are there to hold us accountable, but we are not motivated by laws. We are motivated by true liberation. Liberation is our goal.
Thank you.
Remove
Appreciate it.
remove all barriers to education.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, I just want to thank everyone for their comments. Next, we have board committee.
Is it okay if I give a quick public comment as well? I promise I won't take. I'll try to take 3 minutes. I just want to say something real quick because we had a lot of comments about a specific topic, and we didn't get to hear about some of the other people who signed up on the wait list. And I just want to make sure we have a little bit of space and voice for that, especially since we're going into budget cuts. And I know that we're going through a very hard process. One of the things that I noticed when I moved to Oregon and almost a quarter century ago, yeah, I'm that old, that we have one of the dumbest ways of funding education. I mean, this is based on income, which goes up and down with the economy. So unlike other states where I've seen that slowly build over time, we're always cutting drastically and then we spend our time rebuilding. And one of the things that I want to make space for are our librarians and our art teachers. And I really want to, I saw something really tragic last week. I was at a school and I had, okay, this part's not tragic. I don't know if you know, but it's Oregon Battle of the Books right now. Amazing watching these kids read and it's just watching them compete and it's so beautiful. And what was not beautiful was when during recess, one of the kids were running out and I happened to overhear one of the kids just randomly say to their friends, "I hate books, I hate reading." And it just utterly broke my heart because I knew this kid was having a hard time engaging in school. And one of the things I want to kind of make space for, because maybe I'm hoping I can put my finger on the weights a little bit, is to help protect our library programs. Because one of the things with cuts, with all these cuts that we've been having over and over again, our libraries have been spending so much time rebuilding. And one of the things about library that's so amazing is that it's where just kids are free to explore their passions and reading come together. And it's really a huge part of engagement. I mean, I can tell you right now that the love of reading is so tight. I mean, it's a huge predictor for graduation rates. And again, I'm saying this because I want you to know that we hear you, we acknowledge, and this is dear to my heart. One other thing I want to put my finger on a little bit is our library assistants, because I have a kid in elementary school, and every day of the week that is library day, she runs out of the house. I don't get my hug, which is, it ruins my morning, but it's good for her. So Yeah, that's tragic. And just seeing these kids go in and being able to explore and read what they want to read, and having these library assistants make these possible. And if we don't have our library assistants, we risk not being able to have library every day, because they're the ones that make it happen. Number two, this one also dear to my heart, and this is about a colleague of mine. Our art teachers have it bad in Oregon. And the reason for that is because, it's not a topic that's tested. So therefore, as districts are worried about numbers, it's so easy to kind of let go of art teachers because, it's not part of this, it's not a standardized test, it's not whatever. But just like sports, art is one of those things that help keep our kids engaged, especially some of them that we know that if we didn't have art, would have fallen through the cracks. And again, just like sports, it's so important. And one thing I want to, I'm not directing anyone, I'm just making space for this. But I see, I was lucky to work across our library teacher, and one of the things that they really have difficulty with is that a library teacher they're constantly prepping, right? They're every day, they have to make sure all the art supplies are ready to go. They have to run a kiln, which by the way is like another part-time job, in case you want to offer ceramics. And then because the art room is usually the only place that kids can do art, they usually open up their classrooms even during the prep period. So they don't get a real prep period. And that usually means they work after hours. They're already working overtime. And one of the things that I'm a little, again, I voiced my concern earlier. I'm a little disheartened by, I understand the necessity. But one of the things I want to make sure that we're aware of is that when we cut an art teacher like 0.8%, we're not actually cutting their workload. Because, maybe they might teach one or two less classes, but the amount of prep work and all that stuff is the same. And they're still staying after school, keeping their classes open. So we're really, they're basically doing the same amount of work for less pay. And it's really difficult. And I want to make sure that space is out there. So we hear that, again, one of the things we as a district, and I promise you as we are looking through this budget, it is difficult because when you cut one thing, it's someone else's job. And I don't envy, sorry, the staff and district going through this process. But I want to make sure that space is out there because I saw there were people on the public comments that want to say that. And these are two groups of people that are very dear to my heart. I want to make sure that we understand that some people actually had it worse than, I always thought I was privileged being a science teacher because I had a lot of security because I knew that we always needed science teachers. I don't want to cut other people, but I just want to. I feel I have a lot of big, huge space in my. I don't know how to end this really. I'm just going to keep blabbering on until you cut me off with that beep.
Oh yeah, you don't get a beep, so you would have just kept going and going and.
I'll beat myself.
We appreciate you including the voices that hasn't been. Go ahead. You done? All right. Yes.
Okay. We didn't plan this together, but I happened to go to Clarendon Regional Early Learning Academy to see a Head Start program this morning to actually watch the art teacher. She had sent an email, and I asked if I could come out. Now, she didn't even have a room. She has to go on a cart. And she'd already been at another school and then drove to Clarendon. And I just watched her lesson. I was a preschool teacher, kindergarten for second. So I loved being there because I felt at home. But she was such a wonderful teacher. She taught way more than art. She taught numbers, she taught color, she taught behavior. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. And definitely that's something none of us would cut. I mean, she was wanting me to come to get a sympathetic person, who I obviously was. And it's not as if I want to cut it, that none of us do. And I talked to her and I said, if we give you the art, we're probably going to cut somewhere else. We're going to try our best for it to be, we're at the first of this planning. But we want you to know, we're not sitting here hoping these things go away. I mean, we want to keep them. And we know how wonderful they are. So it's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
We just want you to know that.
Thank you for that. All right, so we had one more public comment that we need to take, so we will let her go now. Thank you.
Oh, I'm very sorry. I thought we were done, but yeah.
No worries.
Sorry. Thank you. Oops. My name is Elizabeth Super, S-U-P-E-R. I'm a parent of a 9th grader at Cleveland High School, so it was great to hear from Principal Watkins today, and a 7th grader at Selwood Middle School. And I live in Southeast Portland, and I just wanted to express my thanks for the board and everything that you do for our kids and how much you really try to advocate, and it really makes a big difference for us as parents in Portland. But I'm coming here today as a Cleveland parent to ask for a partnership for the Powell Park and Cleveland High School. Cleveland, as you know, is the smallest footprint in all of Portland public high schools. It's a comprehensive high school with 4 acres versus our other high schools have much more space. And with all of our amazing staff at Cleveland High School and our students, we have one dedicated turf field. We have one football field that's actually located 0.4 miles from the school. And that turf field is surrounded by a track. And so in the fall, you will see JV football playing there, varsity football, women's soccer, men's soccer, and around the track is cross country. And that causes our students to have to practice at 6 a.m. to kind of fit in their practices and practice all the way until 11 p.m. And it really stresses our students and our amazing staff. And so what we're asking as Cleveland parents, as members of the Southeast Portland community, is not for more, but just for the same field access that Grant and McDaniel and Ida B. Wells and our other Portland high schools have. And we're asking you for this now, to partner with Powell Park for Portland Public Schools to have a partnership with Portland Parks and Rec, similar, kind of the same as Grant High School, to really be able to take that field, which you can see across the street from Highway 26, one of the most busiest streets, which unfortunately, as you know, in 2022, our students witnessed a bicyclist being killed. To take that park and actually dedicate it to Cleveland High School. So it becomes Cleveland Powell Park, and we're able to uplift the community, because that's what we want to do. This is not just for our kids at Cleveland High School. This is for the community in Southeast, for us to be present there, to take care of the park, and to use the park. And our hope is then to expand athletics, which, as you were saying, Board Member Wang, is so important for our students. So to have a baseball field, a softball field, a hitting barn, a soccer field, lacrosse field, because that really can uplift our students in our community. So we're asking for you now because of modernization that's coming up in the fall, and there's no expansion for Cleveland High School for fields at all. And we've gone to those meetings and those planning meetings, and so we're really asking, what can we do as parents? Where can we advocate? What can we write? How can we give you more stories, petitions to really start that partnership with Portland Parks for Cleveland and Powell Park?
Thank you. All right, next we're going to move on to our follow-up discussion on graduation data, which was presented to us last month, work session. So Dr. Huss, would you like to introduce this item?
I sure would. On February 20th, we had a work session to review the graduation data for the class of 2023. Dr. Adams, our Chief of Research, Assessment, and Accountability, shared an overview with you. There were many questions that you submitted about our graduation rates, and specifically gaps that we know still persist between our students of color and their peers. We appreciate that you sent your questions in advance, and we hope you've had an opportunity to review the responses that we shared back with you. We understood you wanted to take a little bit more time this evening to see if there's any discussion around your responses, so we have 3 staff members here that are very familiar with the data to help with any conversation you'd like to have.
Great. So I'm oblivious that you guys just kind of give us an overview of the questions that you guys received and some of the answers that that responded to.
Can I get a clarification? And I'm not sure why I'm ringing. Am I ringing? Okay, sounds like I'm ringing. There was a really long list. So are you wanting him to actually go through every one, or are you just wanting to could I have a little bit more direction, Chair Hollins?
Okay, so let me, some of the questions that were asked, we sent the email, right? And so if you can just go over some, you don't have to go over the whole list of questions, some of the questions so the public can understand some of the questions that was asked in public and also be answered in public as well. You don't have to go over all of them, just some of them. Just a broad overview of the questions, the concerns, the thoughts, and the responses to those. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Chair Hollins. There were a total of 37 questions that were submitted by board members via email, and we of course answered all those questions. Some of them, some board members asked questions that were very similar or exactly the same as other board members, so when we had that opportunity, we answered it once and referred in the document back to the previous answer. Some of the questions asked about differences between, I believe this was based on the graduation memo, between Portland Public Schools, Multnomah County, and the state of Oregon demographically, and of course, those there are demographic differences there. And I think overwhelmingly, the questions were asking about what are we doing about it? What are our action steps? How do we know it's working? And so with that, I would invite our experts in the so what, now what, Drs. Franco and Ms. Assistant Superintendent Calvert to talk, yeah, just take it away, to talk a little bit about some of those questions that had to do with the now what, so what.
Thanks, Dr. Adams. Directors and student director. Yeah, happy just to, again, just really appreciate the questions. And just like what Dr. Adams said, I think there was several questions around just comparative pieces in terms of demographics in comparison to other districts, but then also how we compare overarchingly to similar districts from a graduation perspective. But back to the so what, now what type of thing. You'll see this echoed, you've seen this echoed if you read through some of the answers in terms of, and I'll let Margaret chime in as well, but several pieces that we're distinctly honing in on is we do have a high school success plan, which provides a theory of action, and this high school success plan is aligned to our board goals and our strategies in regards to instructional priorities. I would say some high leverage pieces noted in the success plan, but just also in general, is that our freshman success through Measure 98 is a big catalyst, so you'll hear that a lot in terms of answers. We know that how our kids do freshman year in terms of on track is a distinct indicator of graduation, and so you'll see answers in relationship to that and strategies around that. Also, we have distinct credit recovery opportunities in terms of virtual scholars, evening scholars, and summer scholars. I would also say, too, that providing choice for our kids is extremely important. Culturally engaging, relevant instruction is extremely important. And also when I say things like choice in terms of like CTE classes and those types of things are extremely important. We also have programs like Teen Parent Services, which provide free childcare to parenting students, social emotional support, which has been a big piece, parenting education, and of course academic support. And you heard Principal Watkins provide a great example when you're talking about IB for all, especially at the junior level where you have juniors taking IB coursework in terms of language arts and social science, and then also in regards to science in general. That level of expectation has been extremely important. I think our AP and IB, but then also, if you read through some of the slides, the dual credit data in terms of the number of kids earning credit. So again, providing that level of access and opportunity has been significant in terms of moving our graduation rate.
If I could.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
Sorry for the ping pong here. I realize there was a question that came up a few times that has to do more with what research might say. There was a question that asked what metrics or indicators are used to monitor progress and measure success, and how do we know beyond, we know we're doing the 9th grade success teams, but, research has shown that the ABCs really predict how well and if students will graduate. Attendance, behavior, course grades are highly predictive of students being successful. And that can start as early as elementary school. In my previous district, we did some research that showed us we could know who was going to be on or off track by the end of 5th grade, by the end of 8th grade, and then we organized middle schools and high schools to react to those data as students were entering 6th grade and 9th grade. And so those are the leading indicators. You know we need, as we used to say, butts and seats for learning to occur. And that isn't happening if students either aren't in school, or if there's been a behavior consequence and a student is in the office or removed from school temporarily. And then we know that course grades and course performance is another indicator. And so I just wanted to put that out into the public space per Chair Holland's request. Thank you, Ms. Calvert, for letting me interrupt.
Absolutely. I think one of the other questions that surfaced was the two measures that we have that we look at when we look at graduation rates and then post-secondary readiness. They're lagging indicators. So I think that's part of what some of the questions were about. Like, so what are the early indicators, or if students are on track? I think the other question was, like, what is the difference between indicators of post-secondary success and graduation rates? They're not the same. There's a difference in performance based on race. For post-secondary readiness, there's a difference in graduation rate, and we see a gap between those two. So I just want to take a moment to speak to that in particular. What we see, and I think that I appreciate the fact that Principal Watkins was here this evening, and one of the questions that was posed is, are there any promising practices that we are seeing in the district that we would want to consider? How would we grow some of these practices? So in your materials, we provided 3 examples of spaces where we see this notion of for all in advanced coursework. And this is part of the high school success plan, intentionally to say, how do we build this in all of our academic spaces across all of our high schools? So there's 3 examples that we provided. One was at Benson, where we see CTE is expected, a pathway completion for all students that enter Benson. We see higher graduation rates across all races at Benson, and also higher rates of what we see as post-secondary readiness, which in that setting is completion of a CTE pathway. So we then turn our attention to Cleveland, where we heard Principal Watkins say that there has been a concerted effort to say that IB for all is happening at the junior year and then again into the senior year. Those implications, as we heard from our student, say that it changed the dynamics about what students expected of themselves. It changed the responsibility of how educators are looking at how they're meeting and raising student achievement. And then that led to ultimately seeing a difference in graduation rates for our Latinx students in particular at Cleveland. In addition, this is the same process, is this notion of when we say and state clearly what the expectation is for all students, then we work tirelessly and collaboratively as a group of educators to make sure and ensure the students not only have access, but actually demonstrate success in advanced coursework that then prepares them for life beyond high school. The third example then is at Jefferson, where we have dual credit for all that is happening very similarly. You have all students take junior English, which is a dual credit course, and then is followed by senior inquiry, which is also a dual credit course. And that expectation is that every student that enters into Jefferson High School will have college credits completed prior to graduation. Again, what you see there is there's not a difference in graduation rate by race, nor is there a difference in post-secondary readiness by race. So this is as a practice that we're seeing in 3 different settings, 3 pretty different schools. Seems to be something that we're exploring about how do we change that dynamic and provide those opportunities in every space. I think the last time that we were here at the work session, there was a conversation about what are our strategic investments through Measure 98, and this is one of the strategic investments that we're making, is a concerted effort to how do we engage this across school spaces, but then also how do we identify students to make, like, what has to happen in the freshman and sophomore year in order for students to have access and success. So we're building this 9-12 model and reaching back into the 8th grade, and we're trying to really provide this continuum, and it's in a variety of settings. So I think that the challenges are real, and I don't want to underestimate and I don't want to minimize the fact that we're seeing a difference in performance based on race. The goal is to disrupt that and disrupt that predictability, and we're seeing it in some spaces, and it's providing some promising practices as we move forward. So just wanted to, I know that was a question that was elevated last time we were together, so wanted to highlight that piece.
Board, is there any discussions or have any questions about anything that you've heard?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So we're reaching back to the 8th grade. Is that far back enough? Do we need to start at the 4th grade? And also, I just want to highlight, I just heard about 10 minutes of a study today, an audio version called See How Your School District is Recovering from the Pandemic, that I found really interesting, and they have some theory of change in there. And it's interactive if you get the online version. But I'm wondering if we're reaching back far enough. If by the 8th grade, have we captured the kids that may fall, or do we go back further?
So I appreciate the question. So what we want to do is intervene early, often, and persistently. So is it ever too early? Absolutely not. And I think that part of what are there specific strategies that we're building to try to provide bridges is probably the part that we've worked most recently around with we're looking at CTE pathways, providing CTE opportunities in middle school. We're looking at AVID starting in middle school and going into high school. We're looking at a variety of things of how do we bridge this so that it feels seamless to students. We also know that when students arrive in their freshman year is absolutely critical. We know that if a student changes schools one time, they're 3 times less likely to graduate on time. So what we want is students to make connections, to get into schools, and to stay, and to build the relationships that we heard. You know, we had a great student example where she wasn't sure that Cleveland was going to be the right space, and then persisting, and then now flourishing. So there's this connection. So we talk about the immediate bridge, but of course what we want to build is as much academic persistence, tenacity, and really, I'm losing my word here but it really is around just making sure that kids have stamina, right? Academic stamina. And absolutely, as we go back, we want to build those rhythms and help students find success early, and then also just continue to build that academic momentum as we go.
Yeah, and back, you know, we've given several presentations about this, but in terms of our instructional framework, obviously that is something distinct that is pre-K-12 across the board when we're talking about a tier 1 level of instruction, grade level standards aligned instruction, and then obviously honing in on our curriculum implementation, I think has been distinct. So when you're talking about, yes, I would agree with you, it starts from day 1 when the kids enter. And I think the type of instruction that they are receiving from day 1 is extremely important, and the supports they're getting all the way through.
Yeah, thanks for answering these questions. They're very helpful. I strangely enjoyed reading through all this. A couple questions, and you may not be able to answer it now unless you want to, or it may be something that deferred to Student Success Committee or something like that. One of my requests is that it would be, I think sometimes I'm a little bit fearful that sometimes we get stuck on kind of data analysis paralysis a little bit, right? We have so much data and we don't know what, and we're analyzing, we identify the problems, we don't know what to do with it. My request is that it would be nice to see maybe an ongoing list of like solutions that have been operationalized in terms of like, you know, what actions have been taken, what we're doing, what's the current status, you know, and, you know, a brief list is fine. Again, this is something we can discuss later. I'm not expecting an answer right now. The other thing I also want to point out is the question number 6 about our post-second readiness and graduation rates. And what was really stark is the delta, especially among our Black and Afro-American students. It's very concerning. One of the things I do want to ask too is, you know, like, I understand like as an educational institution, our goal, we know that college is not right for everybody. It's not the right path for everyone, but it should always be a choice if they want to, right? And that's our ultimate goal. My question is, with this huge delta, especially with some of our groups getting close to that as well, is there any way we can access data in terms of, you know, when some of these students have gone to college and how many, what's the rates that some of them have needed remedial help, right? And again, this is something you know, for later. I know this is, I'm not asking you right now, but unless you want to say yes or no. But yeah, it would be nice if we could access that data too.
We can certainly get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. You're there. Any other questions?
I have about I noticed it says there's a credit recovery program in most schools. And how does that work?
So there are a variety of ways. It's a combination of things that are credit recovery and then also credit completion. And one of the things that I would say was a dramatic shift as we came through the pandemic and working was really honing in at the high school level around standards and what standards do students need to demonstrate their learning. So some of what happens is kids weren't just quite finished yet, right? So we've identified specific things that students need to complete. Every high school has an opportunity for students to do that. It shows up in a couple of different ways. Sometimes it's Saturday school, where kids are invited and they come and work with teachers to finish assignments. Sometimes it's done after school. Sometimes it's done in an intensive week at the end of the school year or, you know, in transitions. We also have formal systems in place. So we have virtual scholars, which is also an opportunity for students to complete coursework during the school day online with a teacher, with a mentor at the school, but it's actually a teacher online. We also have Portland Evening Scholars and Portland Summer Scholars actually provide full courses for students. So there's a variety of ways for students to demonstrate their understanding and complete their learning.
Yeah, I was talking to the principal at MLC the other day, and she said her 9th and 10th grades now were often credit recovery. And since that's such a small school, if they were looking to then send them back maybe to a larger high school that had more options if they got there. But it just sounded like our alternative schools are really serving quite a need right now.
They are, and we have alternative schools that are within our system, both Alliance High School and then MLC. We also have our community partners, so POIC, Helens View, Mount Scott, for example. I think one of the things that probably we've worked for a number of years to really develop is a system that, you know, we want students to be successful in their first school they choose. That's our goal. And if that does not happen, then we work really hard to connect them to the next and then to keep them persisting all the way through. And I think that is probably one of the things that we have done successfully as a school district is really create a variety of ways for students to find success on the first try and on the second and on the third, as the case may be.
Excellent. Thank you all so much for the update, Dr. Adams. Thank you so much. Thank your team. The next item on our list is an update on the special education. And I'm going to give this back to Dr. Huff so she can introduce this topic as well.
Yes. Thank you. I've asked the Chief of Student Support Services, Jay Buno, here to provide an update specifically on programming and staffing to support Like I've heard from staff and family concerns about how we're supporting our students receiving special education and the adults that work with them. We've asked the chief to share this information on professional learning, including student crisis intervention training and paraeducator onboarding and training. Knowing that this is a really big topic, we asked for specific guidance from Chair Hollins on exactly what questions we were to answer. So please keep in mind you have a lot of information on special education at the end of the report. We're not going through all that tonight. Tonight we were specifically focusing on some of the budget cut implications, how the training may be shoring some people up, and making sure we've got some good understanding there. With that, Jay, I will turn it over to you.
And you got 15 minutes.
Well then.
That means if we don't get it all done today, Jay, we're okay.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and Directors, Superintendent, and Student Representative. Give me one moment. I'm trying to work with technology here. There we go. Okay. So tonight I'm going to provide you the board update on special education services, program shifts, and rationale for budget recommendations and staff crisis de-escalation training process as the superintendent indicated. Additionally, I provided you a memo and additional slides on the Special Education Department's progress towards strategic goals, outcomes, professional learning, achievement, graduation, and engagement data, program improvement, and the path forward for special education in Portland Public Schools, which I won't discuss tonight, but I've made available for you to review. Before I begin, I want to make a statement. The work and the expertise of every single special educator, every learner, every leader, every classified staff member, every single student service provider is valued and important. Every student service provider, central or building-based, works to support students. Every student service provider in Portland Public Schools comes to work every single day and centers the needs of the students, and they do it because it's the right thing to do, and they do it with grace and amazing skill. We've had to make very difficult decisions and recommendations in the last few weeks, decisions that several of us have publicly stated have been coming, decisions that will impact the program in some manner no matter what we do. I have spent the last 3 years in this work gathering feedback and input from students, staff, parents, community members, building leaders, program reviews, labor partners, and district leaders related to each of these topics, and this is what has informed the recommendations provided to you this evening. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about our program shifts and the budget recommendations. So Oregon provides a weighted average daily membership, or ADMW. Average daily membership is an average, is how special education is funded. So it's an average daily membership plus an additional amount for each student in attendance eligible for special education. So each special education student is funded basically twice, up to a cap of 11%. 11% ceiling. Our current representation of students we provide special educations for is over 16%. Our IDEA funds are approximately $8.7 million. I have submitted testimony to the legislature for the last 2 sessions in support of the elimination of this arbitrary cap. Currently, in the legislature, it's House Bill 4079, and it's in the House Revenue Committee. 11% cap level does not exist in most states. If a cap exists at all, it's typically around 15 or 16%. For students with particularly high needs, there is another source of funds, the high cost disabilities funds. However, there is growing need in that fund, and the reimbursement has declined significantly over the last several years. High cost disability funds provide supplemental funding for students whose education costs more than $30,000 per year, and it typically adds a few $1,000s per student. As a district, we are at the top of the state in spending per student with disability, in services, caseload, and pay for our educators based on the resources we have available. Our building staff models are for special education moving into next year have not changed. In fact, because of some of these shifts, some areas have improved. We spend all of our resources provided to us by the state, the federal government, for students with disabilities, and we encroach substantially on the general fund. The impact on general fund currently this year is approximately $120 million. There is work to be done within our system to address the urgent learning needs of our students. This work is outlined in our instructional priorities and the roadmap to educational equity. This includes our students that experience disabilities. Additionally, each of our strategies outlined in our special education improvement plan addressed later in these slides and in the memo I sent you add to this plan. As a leader of this department, there are strategic moves I would recommend with staffing where we need to invest in additional staffing for support of our students and our staff in special education. The issue is not that we do not want to prioritize this. The issue is that we are not provided the resources or funding from the state. Any additional investment in special education at this time without additional funding from the state will result in cuts to other essential services provided to students in PPS. Every shift recommended centrally within the special education department will not change a student's identified service needs outlined in their IEP moving forward. The district will continue to train and support the staff that serve our students' IEP-related needs. If the system moves from a single support team to a model of multiple providers or a model of school-based support, if a student IEP requires that specific training within the support for school personnel section of an IEP, that will continue to be provided. If a student's IEP requires cutting up food or monitoring eating as part of a safe eating protocol, that will still be provided. If a student's IEP requires monitoring assistive technology or communication system, that will still be provided. PPS has highly qualified specialists and medical personnel that work in every single one of our buildings, and we have invested in their training and development over the last few years, and we will continue to do so. Additionally, we are in conversation on a plan to continue to reimburse, recognize, and support and benefit from the expertise, consultation, and training from our staff with specific expertise in feeding, augmented communication, and assistive technology in support of our students with complex needs. Additional information related to that specific plan will be shared as we get closer to the upcoming school year, as we are currently only in the initial stages of our staffing and assignment processes and at just initiating our budget process. I also want to be very clear. There's a narrative out there that these recommendations have been made in support of inclusion. That's not accurate. The central reduction recommendations are due to budget, and the shifts have been made to add FTE to our schools and to remove it from central office. Additionally, and separately, the Special Education Department is initiating a program improvement plan that is rooted in our Forward Together strategic plan. This plan was developed following program evaluations and substantial direct student, family, and leader input. This plan addresses the disproportionate representation of students of color in our focused classrooms and the persistent gaps in achievement for students with disabilities and addresses the concerns of our families around engagement and belonging and the experiences of students and staff across buildings. The intentional implementation of this plan, frequently referred to as the Neighborhood Schools Plan, is focused currently on 2 model schools right now and will move to 5 additional elementary schools next year at the kindergarten level only. This plan is intentionally organized to disrupt disproportionality, address students' level of need, and support students and families' feedback for engagement and belonging, and also is occurring concurrently as we're discussing staffing levels and budget. There are 4 primary recommendations from the Central Special Education Department that we are recommending. The first is the reduction of 4 administrative positions in the department. The second shift is a reduction in central FTE that provide assessment and training for feeding and assistive technology. The plan moving forward decentralizes, supports, embraces, and emphasizes the expertise of our school-based professionals. We serve and support our students and staff. We are also in discussions with our labor partner to plan to provide an extended responsibility to designated staff to provide consultation, training, and assessment for complex situations. Additionally, we are reducing the number of board-certified behavioral analysts that are necessary experts within our system, and we are shifting this FTE into our buildings. We are continuing to have these services, and as part of our central supports, also our Pioneer program and our Rapid Response team. The final shift moving forward involves implementation of recommendations outlined within our adapted physical education program evaluation, bringing the special education service into alignment with the special education program across our system. We will continue to provide adaptive PE services to our students with the most significant motor and medical needs that require services as determined by their IEP teams as a service within physical education. We are recommending that the staffing levels that are needed to support the students' needs within our system. We are also ensuring separately that every student with a disability has access to physical education with non-disabled peers, as is required by law, with the appropriate level of special education services. I'm also going to discuss how we provide professional learning and training to staff in support of student and staff safety. We're committed to the safety of students and staff. PPS partners with the Crisis Prevention Institute, who facilitates nonviolent crisis prevention and intervention techniques. We ensure we provide staff with the best techniques and strategies available. We implement NCI strategies, nonviolent crisis intervention acronym is NCI, in response to student escalation to ensure that we maintain a safe and healthy educational environment and provide ongoing training and support to administration, professional educators, and classified staff in crisis de-escalation. NCI training is an Oregon Improve intervention and is offered through the Special Education Department in pre-service and throughout the year to staff. Staff are required to be recertified to NCI every 2 years. We track certification and staff and provide reminders to them when their certification is coming due. Every paraeducator in our system is trained during onboarding. Professional special educators and administrators are provided training during pre-service, and then additional opportunities are provided throughout the school year, specifically on Mondays this year. As agreed to in our most recent collective bargaining agreement, we are implementing a plan to train staff in management, intervention, and de-escalation techniques. This type of training staff will receive will be differentiated based on roles. The plan moving forward in action is as follows. Classroom management, all classroom teachers during pre-service. Climate and Culture Day will receive Tier 1 integrating practices that are not only foundational to creating a positive school and climate culture, but also will mitigate the need for de-escalation. These school climate trainings integrate restorative justice, racial equity, social justice, transformative social emotional learning, as well as positive behavior supports and school-wide classroom routines and procedures. We will also integrate verbal de-escalation, where every building administrator, special educator, behavioral analyst, social workers, school counselors, psychologists, and other mental health practitioners will be trained in verbal de-escalation strategies, and in addition to that, selected special educators will continue to receive NCI training. And finally, at Pioneer, we implement a strategy called UCARU, which is a specific training that removes all restrictive intervention, is rooted entirely in trauma-informed practices, and this strategy is recertified annually. We have approximately over 400 paraeducators that support our students with individualized education plans. These invaluable staff are essential for the success of our students with disabilities, as they help students to access the general education curriculum, as well as support students with medical, feeding, behavior, and hygiene and other needs in special education. 3 years ago, when I started in Portland Public Schools as the Senior Director of Special Education, I worked directly with PFSP leadership alongside our HR staff to design and develop a mandatory 2-day onboarding and professional learning process for our special education classified staff, which is being implemented today. In addition to all district required training, paraprofessionals attend an intensive 2-day learning experience in which they are prepared for their entry into the school community. During this professional development, they receive training specific to their role, which includes de-escalation and de-escalation techniques, as well as basic expectations and support to be in the school environment. These 2-day onboarding trainings occur twice a week during August to the end of October, and then weekly for the remainder of the school year. Additionally, we provide professional development to our classified staff on non-school attendance days and during teacher planning days throughout the year. As the needs of these students we serve grow, and as we shift programming, we'll continue to expand the professional learning and support of our staff with the intentional implementation of the special education programming plan. Collectively, we have a vision for what is possible, and we have model schools within the district that we are doing the work and making it happen for students. So with that, I'll ask if you have any questions.
So we're gonna go down the line and see if we have questions from the board. So we'll start with Student Director Silverstein. Board Director Sullivan.
You gave us a lot of information in that. Are we trying to get, I know we should be getting more federal funding. Is there work being done to try to make that happen?
So I appreciate that question. I think every state and every advocacy agency, including national organizations that represent our labor partners, national organizations that represent every one of our professional groups, and our disability rights organizations, including our like professional organizations in states advocate with the federal government to increase special education funding with IDEA. Every year, it goes to be funded at significantly inadequate levels. And yes, we continue to advocate across the system and across the country for increased funding from the federal government with IDEA.
So just keep
I
plugging
think
away.
that we all should continue to support advocacy, both at the state and the federal level.
All right, Director Scott.
Thanks. You did give us a lot of information. And I know we've got the slide deck, and I know you said you were only going to go through a few slides, but then you also mentioned some other information. Was it the rest of the slides, or was there something else? Was there a memo or anything? I just want to make sure I hadn't missed anything, so.
Yeah.
Did that come by email?
Yes. Roseanne sent the memo, I think.
Okay, I'll keep. We're
earlier
getting a
this
lot
week.
of emails on a lot
No,
of things,
I
so I
understand.
may have missed that. So thank you. I'll go back through that. Did you? So I apologize not having read that before the meeting. Did you say in your presentation what? I mean, I hear what you're saying about these changes and sort of the rationale behind them. Did you talk about the savings that we are getting from making these changes? I don't mean that as a trick question.
Yeah, no, the focus, excuse me, Chairman Hollins, the focus, because there is so much in special education, and I apologize if you didn't get the email with the memo attached, the focus was specifically on this particular cycle and the people impact. We can come back to you with fiscal if you'd like that.
Okay. Yeah, and I think maybe one of the things I know we're getting a lot of email about is, people who are disagreeing with the impacts. And I think, that's a very operational question that, I'm not qualified to answer. You all are qualified to engage in that conversation with your employees. And I think that's an important conversation to have. And I know from your emails, Dr. Husk, you're inviting people into that conversation. And then I think the second question is just, from a budget perspective, if there are, I think if there are savings from it, we should be just honest about that. That's the reason why we're making changes. If we had additional funding and we would do things differently, I think we should be clear about that. And then even from a board perspective, I'd like to understand that. So as we go forward, we can sort of weigh this versus potential other things. I mean, I don't know if there's not really time on tonight's agenda on all the other things. I mean, there's a lot of budget conversation going on, and I know some of my colleagues have talked about it as well. And I mean, there will be opportunities for us to talk about it in the future. I mean, the challenge with all of this is not, actually you said it the best. You said it's not that we want to cut anything. It's a matter of how do we bridge a $40 million gap. And the $40 million gap will be bridged, has to be bridged, or the district goes bankrupt, and that's really bad. How we bridge it is really important. And that's the conversation I wanted to keep having. And if it's not here, it's somewhere else. And then at that meeting, we'll have those folks come and talk to us as well. And so none of the cuts are painless. And it really, that's the challenge that you just walked into 3 weeks ago, is how do we balance this over the next few months. So I will go back and find that email in the hundreds that I've gotten in the last few days, and I apologize I didn't see that before. Yeah.
I can, and we can get you that additional information. I think the one thing I would say though is that these particular these are very difficult decisions, and these situations, what they do is they cause us to take a look at the way we've always done things and consider whether or not we can approach them differently. And sometimes when you're doing that, there are ways that things are done in other places, and you can learn to do things in a way that serves students as well, and it may look different in the future. And consequently, we've had to consider that through this process. And I think that whether it's in special education or whether it's in other areas, that's what we're going to have to do moving forward because of the situation we're in. So,
Thank you. Director Bermewitz.
Thanks for the memo and the presentation. And so I'm going to focus a little bit on just the shifts that you described, not the particular reasons, but just the preparation for the shift. So, and I appreciate the very detailed descriptions about the shifts that are being made and also impacts on students and other staff. So just to understand, has contemplated all the trainings happened or will be happening? I'm asking a question.
I'm telling y'all we'll leave. If it happens again, we need to get up and go. I don't think we need to play with it. And this isn't, you are playing a part in a board meeting. This is board business. If you want, when it's time to talk is in public comment. It is not when the board is going back and forth with the staff. So you don't have to like what I'm saying right now, but it is what it is, and you will deal with it. If there's an interruption, team, we have to get up and we have to leave. Otherwise, they will continue to promote this type of effort and think that this is how you do business, and it is not.
So sequencing. So the training would be happening this year. And it would be implemented next year? Or it's partially
implemented? We
implemented?
Training last school year, specifically related to feeding across 2 of our groups. And we will continue to support those groups with strategies needed to allow them implementation. In addition to that, we are pursuing strategies to continue to have recognized experts to provide consultation and support that looks differently than we're doing it now, to enable students to continue to be served and supported, and support our staff who already have students on their caseloads in the buildings to continue to make decisions and provide services to the students on the teams, the IEP teams within the schools that they support.
And then I wanted to ask about the neighborhood model.
Yeah.
I have a relative who's had a very significant disability, not in PPS, but just knowing also to getting the support, but also having opportunities to be in your neighborhood school and how important that is. And I have a question about the neighborhood school model that you're referencing, and what are the attributes of that versus just students being in their neighborhood schools? Is there something different about it, that how you're resourcing it?
So
or a different focus?
I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to understand what the model is, and I'm assuming we're doing that because it's a good practice, and also that we have the ability to staff for it, and that it's something that has better outcomes for students.
So we have 2 examples of it occurring right now in our school district with PPS staffing ratios, with PPS staff, with PPS kids in the PPS community. So it's functioning right now, and I'm happy to take you all and visit that because it's occurring right now. So what that is basically is the result of a year's worth of sitting down with our families that experience placement in our focus classrooms, and listening to them and the students in our middle schools and high schools that were placed elsewhere, and listening to them ask us questions of why does that happen to us? And then in addition to that, looking at our data and find that a vast majority of the students, and I don't want to over-exaggerate, 60% of the students that happens to are students of color in our district, and looking at strategies that we can implement to interrupt that. And so what it looks like is students are served at their neighborhood school. We staff it based upon the level of need that is generated by that student's IEP. So in our traditional system, if a student demonstrates the need to be placed in a focused classroom, that generates a certain level of staffing. The school still gets that level of staffing or is provided that level of staffing. It's just that we don't move the family. And so, like I said, we have two model schools right now that were led by our buildings and our staff, and they're making it happen. And we've provided support to them to do that, but our building leaders and our building staffs and the ILTs have made it happen. And I'm happy to take you there, and we can visit and have conversations with folks. It's amazing. I spent a Monday at one of the schools, and I was in a classroom, and I mean, it was amazing. That's all I have to say, and I'm happy to visit with you.
Great, I'd love to do that because I know how important that is to our families, and Director Hollins is telling me that we're going to move down. But I really appreciate all the information, and I look forward to, I can send you the rest of my questions I have. Thank you.
That'd be great.
Thank you. Go to Director DePass.
You skipped over Director Green. I appreciate the presentation, and it was a lot to take in. This is not an area of expertise for me. I'd also be really interested in taking a tour and also understanding a little bit of combination of what Director Scott said about the financial impacts and what we expect the outcomes to be as a result of these changes. And also, I just want to appreciate that I think I heard that we are parent and student focused on the decision. The community had input into what this looks like on the ground. And I know that's a different way of designing a program. But I appreciate that it's for the convenience of the people who have students in our program that need this, the extra services. So yeah, I'd just be interested in having a tour to learn more about this so I can be a little bit more informed.
Thank you. Director Wong?
Yeah, I would like that tour too. That'd be great. Maybe we could all go together, save some time. I just have one question and one comment. My question, I mean, this is dear to my heart because I think we need to always speak up for and help the kids who have a hard time helping themselves. And SPED is something dear to my heart. When I was wondering, and you don't have to answer this here. In fact, I think it may be better if you could reply to the comments that you submitted. But one of my questions is, I'm just curious about which of these changes that you listed were due to, because we had budget cuts, and which of them were done we would have done anyways because they were a bit better way or more efficient way, or maybe, and which ones were both, right?
Okay. We expect that response in the email.
Yeah.
Thank
yeah.
you.
I think what we're going to do is put together, he did a presentation for us this morning, and I think we need to have him do it again and video it and then send it to you so you can hear him and see him, but we will definitely get you that response. It was very well done this morning.
Great. All right, that answers that. My other thing is just a comment. If people out there have really want to bug our representatives, this is one really big thing that is really bugging me, and we can't say this enough because you mentioned this earlier. We talked about this before, but this 11% arbitrary cap that our state has on SPED funding, it is something that we see this again. It hurts a lot urban school districts because we have a higher rates of special ed cases and kids and things like that, and a lot of them come because we have the services, but at the same time, this cap, we have 16% of our kids, right, that require this, but we're only funded for 11. I mean, that's 5% that are unfunded, and it's something that I'm guessing would be so easy for our representatives just to remove that cap. It's one bill, one ask, whatever. But yeah, that's something to really pester our representatives, and that's something I've been doing and I will keep doing, and I'm hoping others will join me. Thank you.
Thanks for that comment. Thank you. Director Green?
Yes, thank you. First, I want to start off by saying thank you, commending you for the work that you've done. One of the things that I noticed was that everybody else came up there with a whole group of folks, like they was deep, 3, 4, 5 people deep, and Jay comes up as a lone soldier. So I would appreciate you for stepping into it. I do want to go on the tour because I do have some questions. I was at a school last week, and I was doing one of my visits with Dr. O, who regularly takes me around to see schools and to see what's going on. And one of the things that we got to do was to stop into the SPED class. And I was taken back in that the amount of work that those teachers were having to deal with. It was a lot, and I'd say the 20 minutes. I'd say about the 20 minutes that I was there, it was a lot of time. And then she said, "You want to stay for lunch?" I said, "Absolutely not. I can't do this. I can't do this at all. I don't know how you do it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how you came back to work today. I don't know how you did it." But she did. And what I saw as I watched the teachers interact with the students was a sense of exhaustion and a sense of joy at the same time. And so it was kind of hard to watch. And the children, they needed it a lot. They needed them to be there. They needed them to be doing what they were doing. And so I'm excited to hear more about what you're doing and how you believe that this is going to help us get where we need to be, because I know that you care about what you're doing, and I know that you care about our students. So I'm interested to see how what you're doing and where you see the long-term impact of it is going to be, as well as what are some of the things that that we not only can do but should be doing more of, just to say that we haven't done enough. And I believe that this is the season where we're hearing clearly that there's a need for us to do more. And so I'd love to connect with you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. So I think somebody want to be recognized. Was you in her classroom right there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So just because, I want to make sure we are being respectful of everybody's time, I have some questions, but I will send mine in the email around that, and I will present them at the next board meeting, just my questions and some of the answers that you have. But we got to move on, so thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Next, we have an update on instructional hours. Dr. Huss, would you like to talk about the update on instructional hours?
I would, and I have misplaced my notes, but my,
Well, we can go to something else if you need some
no,
time.
no. My wonderful attorney here is helping me out. Okay, thank you. Yes, as you're aware, we had a lot of disruptions to the school schedule this year, including timeout for labor issues and then the January ice storm, which led to school being canceled for a week. This is going to be another challenging topic. We looked at many, many options before we decided what to bring forward. So we brought you two, and there could be variations on these two. I'm going to do a general description of what I think the challenge is. One is that we've got kindergartners who have different time requirements and trying to figure out how to meet those time requirements. And then we have seniors that have different time requirements. If we go one way, it may meet the needs of the kindergartners. If we go the other way, it may meet the needs of the seniors. And so that's what's making this kind of challenging. So, and I'm also going to excuse myself just for a very quick bio break while these two lovely team present. I don't want you to think I'm not interested when I get up. I will be right back. But they have gone over this very detailed way, and they know a lot more about the topic. Yes, that's the term we use somewhere.
All right. You guys got about 8 minutes.
So I feel bad now. It's two people up here. So
hold on.
You can just leave Margaret.
So I sent you you have the memo that was in board book, and so I don't know if you want me to go over the entire thing, if you have some specific questions, or if you just want to start out with an overview. How do you want to proceed?
Let's go, because I'm assuming everybody read it. So let's go, if anybody have any questions, and we'll start down at student director. Okay, we're going to start the other way. We're going to start with Director Wong, yep.
Can I just ask, just a point of clarification? Are you going to be looking for like board direction this evening? Because eventually we'll need to vote on something. Is that one of the outcomes in addition to us being informed?
Correct. Okay. So the point is to kind of get a feel for, and this discussion is going to be really helpful in terms of moving forward. I think one of the big pieces is the 14 hours per ODE that we can claim that the board would have to vote on. And you'll notice in the memo, there's the options include with the 14 and then without, right? And so, and just like what Dr. Huss said, we're good with instructional time in terms of what is required via Division 22. So it's 900 K8 in terms of hours. It's 990 9th through 11th grade, and it's 966 for seniors. So right now, via the work stoppage in November, and then obviously the week, we're short kindergartners and seniors.
All right, so I'll kind of start. I'm okay. My preference would be the elementary school option. But let's move down to Director Wong in case he had any other questions regarding the
Yeah, I mean,
stuff in Board Book.
we're not making a decision on this today, right? We're just, so I can say whatever I want. Yeah, great. Yeah. I won't say whatever I want.
Yeah, you're just giving your opinions and your thoughts on the direction that we have based on what's presented.
Yeah, I mean, my preference would always be to have more seat time for our kids. Unfortunately, this is an option. I understand it's just picking a menu of which one's the least bad, right? And you know, like I understand that kindergartens need their recesses and they need to run around because running around and play is part of learning, is a huge part of learning. At the same time, the penalties for not meeting the hours is pretty stark. And so the one that kind of spoke to me was minimizing. So like if we apply for the exception, that would only mean, if I get this right, only a few weeks that kindergarten's recesses would be cut?
Correct. There's actually, if we applied the 14 hours, then we theoretically could go for a month.
So just 1 month, okay. And
Again, it's converting recess time to instruction. And I also want to say this, because teachers do this all the time.
yeah, movement time.
Is
Yeah.
movement time, is brain breaks, is movement breaks. Those opportunities we absolutely expect would still exist.
Could you? Yeah, I understand that, and that's totally cool. Could you remind me what the penalty is if we do nothing?
So what we generally do, and we do this every year because, you know, we're spread just geographically, high elevations. We have older buildings which could have issues, and so there's weather that could affect a series of schools or a school in particular. And so what happens is we'll have to apply for a Division 22 exception for not meeting the instruction time specifically.
I'm feeling for those kindergarten teachers that have a bunch of wiggly kids, but I guess I'm in favor mostly of the elementary option as well.
And so just to clarify,
Particularly if there's movement involved.
Okay.
Because I could actually use a movement break right now. We've been sitting for hours.
And just to clarify, because I heard it as well from Director Hollins, when you say elementary option, it's the 15 minutes.
The 15 minutes,
as opposed
yes.
to adding school days at the end.
Yeah, because I think adding days is problematic for families and sometimes for teaching staff.
I just want to ask clarification. I think this may be what you were getting at, Dr. Franco, but I mean, there's a high school option and an elementary option. I want to make sure we're hearing on both of them.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Director Green?
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think I would be good with adding days to the end of the school year. So whatever we got to do to not do that, get a waiver, do whatever we need to do. Because I just realistically think that even if we did decide to go with it, it's going to be just about as beneficial as the days that we added to spring break. And so I think, or whatever the break was, where folks.
Winter break.
Winter break. So I think we'll add it, and then it will be just a waste of time. And so go with whatever get the waiver. That's what I'm thinking, so.
All right, Director Brim-Edwards.
I'm for not taking the waiver. I think kids have lost enough instructional time this year already. not wild about ending recess, but I do think, and I think our attitude should, like, we should make it worth it versus it will be a waste of time. So, and I don't think we should do Memorial Day because I don't think it's a good idea. I'd do it at the end of the school year. But I don't support taking the waiver because our kids had no instruction in November.
I guess, can I just ask clarification? If we don't take the waiver and we don't do Memorial Day, what are we doing? And how does that affect seniors? I mean, I guess I just want to make sure, because I'm not sure how, I mean, I know our memos and board books, so anyone can access it, but I mean.
It says it moves graduation back a week.
Well, okay, seniors, what I would, well, I don't support, for all the other grades, losing 14 hours of instruction.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to, I don't support losing 14 hours of instruction either. But that's not the question before us, right? If there was an easy way to keep the 14 hours, we'd do it. I think what I'm really struggling with here is that there are no good options, right? And so I mean, I'll just talk about my own things, but I guess I just want to make sure we're all putting like realistic solutions on the table if there are some. Because I think what's challenging, so I mean, maybe we'll start with the elementary because people have talked about that. This is a little bit, I mean, it's kind of a pedagogical question, which I sort of want to put back on you all for views. I mean, I'm already receiving emails from parents concerned about recess. My kids are older, but I got to tell you, when they were in grade school, this would have been a major concern of mine. And when I hear you say, and this is the sort of the pedagogical question, when I hear you say, we're going to make sure that teachers are doing movement, time in their classrooms, that's great. But doesn't that look a lot like recess? And I'm one of those people who believe that kids are learning during recess too. They're not learning academics, but they're learning lots of other things. If we're just moving 15 minutes of recess inside a classroom, have we done anything for our elementary kids?
So this is what I would say, and I think Director Brim Edwards talked about this in a previous presentation, or maybe it was just even now, is that we got to make the time worth it. And so I would also say too, is that movement breaks and brain breaks are a part of how we keep kids engaged, right? And so that's been a common practice overarchingly. I know people can say that, hey, you're taking away recess time. Maybe objectively that's what it looks like, but the reality is we're trying to meet a Division 22 requirement here. And I think that's an important piece of this conversation. And without adding days to the year, this is an opportunity, a way to do that. But it pedagogically, I think it's how we work with the teachers on providing them guidance on what that actually looks like.
Mm-hmm. And then we're already, May 31st, we've already grabbed that day. That was a planning day, right?
Correct.
And that's a Friday after Memorial Day. We've already grabbed that day.
For seniors. So seniors' last day was, we've done two things for seniors already. So seniors' last day was to be May 30th, and it was a half day. So the first thing we did was extend it to a full day, and now we've also added May 31st as an instructional day.
Got it.
And later this month.
So everyone else was already being in school on 31st,
that's
but
correct.
now seniors will be as
That's
well.
correct.
So they'll have to wait for their
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Day at the beach. And then we've already grabbed the SAT day.
Correct.
As a full instructional day for seniors. So those change, and those are great. And I struggle because Director Green, you mentioned that it didn't work in winter break. And I'm a little curious because I know there was a lot of fear about that students wouldn't show up, and some didn't, a lot did. And there was a fear that teachers wouldn't show up, some didn't, a lot did. And I'm curious, and I think what I remember hearing, but it was a little bit anecdotal, was that actually attendance that first few days was pretty good, and it tapered. Those last 2 days of winter break were really bad. And I guess for me, it comes back to, this is a little bit of a community conversation as well. If we took away Memorial Day, which I'm not opposed to at all, but I would only want to do it if the community was like, yes. And when I say community, we're not going to get unanimity, right? So, if 80% of our families said, yeah, my kid needs, they've missed a lot of school, they need to be in there, we're happy to, whatever plans we had, put our kid in school Monday, and 20% said, yeah, you know, we're not going to change our plans. Like, that seems worth it to me to do that on Monday. If we heard from our community that 60, 70% were going to say, no, we're still keeping our kids out, it makes it less worth it. So that to me is an important data point, which I don't know how we gather that, right? I mean, but, you know, but I think it's anyway, I'm struggling because I also don't want to claim the 14 hours. I don't see a way out without doing that. I mean, all the other options, just to put
Can I
it so
ask-
everyone knows,
I have a
just
question, maybe.
just a second, is that, you know, moving, like adding on to the end for seniors, not only do I worry we'd have the same impact that seniors just might not show up, but it also costs us, what, $100,000 because of graduation rentals that we already have. It would move everyone's graduation date, which to me, that's the bigger problem. People are planning to come here for their, you know, grandkids' graduation, their nieces and nephews. So moving graduation feels really problematic to me, much more so than Memorial.
I would agree.
So I'm going to.
Let's get Patty and we can come
He
back
asked
to
me a
you.
question. Can I answer it?
Hold on,
'Cause-
let's get Patty and we'll
okay.
come back to you.
Okay. So, as I understand it, May 31st, everybody's going. That's making up.
So the May 31st day is a Friday that only seniors would have been out. It's
Right,
a school, it's a
everybody else
regular
would be
school day
on.
for
It-
everybody, every other grade level
It
except
was already,
seniors.
we made that up already. Okay,
Correct.
so everybody's there.
So May 31st is not Memorial Day, which
Or
is
whatever
somewhat
it is.
causing some confusion. May 31st, Memorial Day is actually May 27th.
Okay. And it says here that you're taking the 15 minutes for elementary school because it's difficult to differentiate just for kinders. The board could approve converting 15 minutes of recess to instruction. Can't we do that just for kindergarten? So the rest of primary does not have to go by that?
You know, we talked about that piece, the level of differentiation for kinders. I think what we need to look at there is, what does that feel and look like at the building level when we have everyone, with the exception of kinders, for no fault of their own,
Yeah.
right, not being able to have recess. And so that is, anything is possible, so we could differentiate at that level, but I that's not something that we feel like is a plausible solution.
Because it just seems that would make it so fewer children are bothered by it, and I'm not sure the kindergarten children are going to notice if they get to do stuff in their classroom and do movement. So anyway, that's something I think. But I definitely think we need to take the 14 hours. I can't see any other way around it. So that's
All
my
right,
vote.
Thank you, thank you.
Just one, yeah.
I mean, ideally, I would not want us to, but I think realistically looking at this, like, I would be in support of approving the waiver. And I've also spoken to DSE members and other students, and I don't know that any alternative is going to be logistically particularly feasible or beneficial.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Romero. Want to respond?
Well, I just want to ask, I mean, in theory, we could keep the 14 hours of instruction that our students would have had, and seniors can have their regular graduation time. I mean, they already leave school early anyway. I mean, they finish earlier anyway. I mean, in some ways, this would be preserving the 14 hours for all the other students without disrupting the graduation times.
So if we
Not
take-
ideal, but I'm just saying it's possible.
Yeah, if we take the 14, if we're talking specifically for high school, if we take the 14 hours, we will be good for all the seniors in every school, with the exception of Jefferson and McDaniel, who operate on a fixed 8 schedule. Right, so they don't operate on an AB block schedule. So that's where the difference is. So we would still be sure we'd have to apply for through Division 22 an exception in that case.
But under the scenario where we make up the 14 hours, essentially kindergarten through juniors would all get 14 hours of instruction. The 14 hours of instruction they should have got anyway.
Can you clarify what you mean
You
by
mean if we add
making
the-
up the
yeah,
14
what-
hours?
Well, we weren't taking the 14 hours, so they get 14 hours of instruction versus taking the waiver.
If
So-
we,
oh, sorry.
go, you go ahead.
I am too. I'm trying to understand your question. Are you saying not to take the 14 but find the 14 hours?
I'm suggesting that there would be a way, if you were applying it to everybody else, for the rest of the students to get the 14 hours, right? I mean, that's the adding to the end of the school year.
Correct.
Right, and you could say, but the seniors are gonna end when they're scheduled to end. So bifurcating it versus
So you would say
versus
take the
everybody.
14 hours for seniors only?
Right,
Is that what you're saying?
versus
Yes.
everybody
I see.
losing 14 hours.
So the OD. So you'd say apply the OD waiver for seniors specifically.
I'm
And-
just, as an example, so you don't have to change the graduation. Like, it's not ideal, but it's also not ideal for all the other, for me, just speaking for myself, for all the other grades of students to take the waiver and lose 14 hours.
I'd like to weigh in, if you don't mind. What we didn't ask yet is, or logistically, is that possible? Can you hold a graduation with all the rest of the teachers at the senior high in school teaching, number one? And number two, are there any transportation logistics? I can think of a whole lot of questions if we wanted to go down that route. I think what the interest tonight was to get a pulse on whether or not you're ready to make this decision. I know that we've got parents and employees that are pretty hungry for us to tell them which way we're going. And if you're not ready for it and you want us to explore some other options with some variations, we can do that quickly. I don't think it can hold until the next official board meeting.
Yeah, I want to make sure that I'm understanding the issues. Everyone else is meeting Division 22, so sort of Director Medward's point, like, we don't need the 14-hour waiver for other grades, correct? I'm thinking about your columns, right?
Correct.
And so, I mean, when we talk
Pending-
about
Sorry.
So again, we're not at a winter yet. So, like, for example,
Right.
at the elementary level, without the 14, we're only an hour and a half above, right? That is, if we stay current with no more lost days. If we take the 14, for example, at elementary, it provides a level of cushion of being 15 and a half, with the exception of kinders, right?
Right, in case something else happens. But just, again, to this point, we're not, you're actually not proposing making up. If we take the waiver, you're not proposing making up those days for other students because we don't have to meet Division 22. What I think I hear from you, Director Medwards, is you're saying, let's make them up regardless of whether we need to or not. To meet state requirements.
Just because we got the waiver doesn't mean we have to take it, right? That is, yes, that is what I'm suggesting, that when we started the school year, we had planned that the students would get those 14 hours, and just looking at student data, it looks like we could use every hour of instruction that we have.
Yeah. And I'm just, so I'm actually going to go back. I mean, the more we think about it, the more concerned I am about students losing recess. Like, I would much rather have our elementary students in school on Memorial Day than losing recess. Can you remind me what the cost is of adding a school day, either a holiday or at the end of the year?
Yeah, for Memorial Day in particular, I don't know what the overarching cost is, but that is one where we would have to negotiate with all of our labor partners.
Yeah. Oh, we absolutely
would.
Yeah, and we'd have to pay
because that's a
everybody.
non-work day for everybody.
Right. Right. But I think it was, and an extra day at the end of the year is $1 million, $2 million. Somebody gave me this number like a long time ago. I don't remember what it is.
I would say yes around that.
Yes,
number, but
it's material, and just to note again that there is a trade-off there, right? We have a $40 million budget cut. This would make it
correct
41, right? But again, I agree with you that our kids need the time. So.
Yeah, one quick comment. I just want to, from my anecdotally teacher perspective, educational hours, unfortunately, Oregon has one of the shortest school years, and that really needs to change. And deep down in my heart, I would like a longer school year, period. Unfortunately, the options before us, again, they're all bad. And, just as a former teacher, if I remember, in June, kids are burnt out. And the amount of real learning that's going to happen, adding days, I'm afraid is going to be kind of minimal. I mean, just reality speaking, the teachers are burnt out, aides are burnt out, kids are burnt out. And, if we had a break and then came back, yay, but that's not possible. So I can go back to my fantasy land. Yeah, and I think I am ready to make a decision soon, but if you all want to talk about it more.
Okay, so, yeah. So it sounds like, from my understanding, you kind of got direction
Yep.
from the board.
Pretty varied direction.
Well, I do have
a fairly middling.
Yeah, no, this has been very helpful. I took copious notes from every one of you, and so we'll write something up and we'll present it to Dr. Huskin.
I mean, I don't want to ask to summarize, but it seemed like we were kind of all over the.
Yeah, I think I need a summary to know what the direction is.
So I'm curious what you.
What I'm hearing
heard.
is because we have a lot of different variations, coming up with some more options would be helpful.
Chairman
And
Hollins,
we have, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
didn't mean to
and I
interrupt
did
you.
remember, I did hear you, that you said as far as making sure we have some time, we have work sessions where we can actually vote on this as well.
Yeah.
So if we need to use one of those work sessions to vote, we can do that midterm instead of wait till the next board meeting.
That's not my concern at this point. If we're going to come back with more options, I probably need to go ahead and start working with the labor unions, because it's the time cost, it's not just the financial cost, and we really do have folks wanting us to make a decision. So am I hearing a firm yes, no, or maybe on asking for the waiver?
I thought we had 4 people that said take the waiver. So when we start talking about direction, math is math. And so we don't need 7, we need 4. And I heard 4 people say take the waiver. And so maybe they want us to raise hands or something.
Oh, yeah, I think we have to take the waiver, but that doesn't mean we can't also do other things to add instructional time.
So I think the direction, or trying to figure out, right, everyone, majority of folks are saying we have to take the waiver, but also look at other things. Is that kind of the direction, majority of us?
What does that mean?
Can I take a shot at this about what I think I heard? I think I heard explore what it would take to look at Memorial Day. I think it's what I heard.
Well, you heard that from me.
I
So
heard it
let's,
from
I
one
mean,
of
I don't
you.
know, like,
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so I didn't hear that from my colleagues or anyone who's emailed me, so you might want to drop that option, I don't know.
Okay.
We did hear the converting, I thought I heard from 4 of you, converting recess, the 15 minutes. I thought I heard that pretty clear.
With the caveat that there is some movement time.
Correct.
But you don't have the time getting everybody lined up into the, it might save a few minutes, so yes.
All right. Good?
So there's going to be a vote on that at some point in time?
Yeah,
Correct.
probably at the next work session.
Has to be soon, right?
All right. Thank you. All right, so next, we're going to have our consent agenda. The board will vote on the consent agenda. Members, if there's any items that you would like to pull for discussions, we will set those aside for the next time we meet. Ms. Bradshaw, are there any changes to the consent agenda?
No.
Board members, are there any other items you would like to pull? Hearing none, do I have a motion and second?
Motion.
So, second.
Second.
Okay. Green and Scott. Is there any board discussions on the consent agenda? All right, I would like to call out that on this week's resolution on expenditure contracts that we had several businesses identified as either minority-owned minority-owned businesses, MBEs, women-owned businesses, and emerging small businesses by the State of Oregon Certification Officer. So I just want to appreciate that the focus on the effort turning into a measurable outcome. And I know Dan has worked intentionally to try to make sure that that inclusion was happening. I don't know if Dan is still here, but I just want to say thank you for that. All right, the board will now vote on resolution 6864 through 6875. All in favor indicate by saying yes.
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 All opposed? All right. Student Director Silverstein, please indicate your vote.
Yes.
All right. The consent agenda is amended and approved by a vote of 7-0, with Student Director Silverstein voting yes. All right, next up, we have comments from our union partners. No one? Someone? All right.
Hi, I'm Kelly Bond, District Council of Unions and Local 48 Business Representative. First thing I want to say is I do not envy this board's decisions that have to be made. I know it's very complicated. I know it's very heart-wrenching. I personally worked in a school district as a paraeducator at one time. So I fully understand both sides of the fence, and I don't envy your position at all. I do want to bring to your attention that while you have negotiated several contracts, there is one that is still on the table. I'm very disturbed by what I'm hearing, because I'm hearing budget cuts and our contract hasn't even been negotiated yet. That seriously concerns me, that a contract will be negotiated in good faith. And that is a serious issue to me. So I want to make sure that you're aware that I am highly concerned, and my members are highly concerned about that. I do want to give credit to the school district for raising a bunch of young people who are willing to speak up for what their heart tells them is an important topic or important issues to address. That is a direct credit to the school district, to the teachers that work here, and to the staff that may not be on the front lines but support everyone that is doing the hard work. So I want to acknowledge that and say thank you for that as well. The District Council of Unions are tradespeople, the vast majority of them. Many people are unaware that tradespeople, they tend to look at us as being people who are not necessarily the most educated people. I would say that's a tremendous falsehood, and I say that because many of our members not only have associate's degrees and bachelor's degrees and some with masters, but they spend a lot of time going through an apprenticeship program that is anywhere from 2 to 5 years long. So please don't discount that. Our members are highly educated. They spend a lot of time and they invest a lot of time in their careers. And the ones that are here with Portland Public Schools, some of them have been here for an extended period of time. I mean, some of them I know have been here 20, 30 plus years. They stay because they're dedicated. But what I can tell you is this: if the district can't support what they do financially and realistically, it's going to create a difficulty for the district, because contracting out all of the District Council of Unions trades in the long run is going to cost you not just what the employees are paid, but it's going to cost you for overhead, it's going to cost you in prevailing wage. And as some of you know who work businesses, prevailing wage and bringing in contractors, it's not just prevailing wage. It's a huge chunk of overhead, and with overhead, we always built in a little cushion because we know things happen. So that's a huge expense to the school district. I'm not being disrespectful to my contractor siblings. I understand what they're at, but I also understand that they don't have the knowledge, skills, and experience and understanding of the school district buildings, which range from over 100 years old to some that are even just within the last 3 years. The staff that you have here have that institutional knowledge and can do the work more efficiently and better than someone that you bring in that doesn't have that background and that experience. So I wanted to make the school board aware of that as well. And I'm sure most of you are aware of that, but sometimes it needs to be spoken to be reinforced. So with that, I will say thank you for listening to me in regards to the District Council of Unions, and thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Held, and I'm the interim president of PFSP. I'd like to thank the board on the earlier vote on Resolution 6862, recognizing this week as Classified Appreciation Week. As the resolution stated, classified staff enrich and support students in Portland Public Schools toward their highest achievement possible. I'm proud to be here tonight with our representative from DCU in the same way we work together in the schools. And I'm proud to be here tonight and represent PFSP. Our members perform an incredible array of duties for the district. We represent over 70 different job classes. One classification I'd like to speak to tonight specifically are our library assistants who support our PAT media specialists. Many of them have reached out to our office over the last several weeks to let us know that they've been unassigned. In a joint statement from the Oregon Library Association and the Oregon Association of Libraries, they said in part, "While we understand the seriousness of Portland Public Schools budget issues, we urge PPS to keep school library services at their current level. A strong school library program with a licensed teacher librarian and a classified library assistant is one of the most high-yield educational resources in schools. Decades of research have proven that strong school library programs have positive measurable impacts on third grade literacy rates, K-12 writing and math scores, and attendance and graduation rates, particularly for students who are historically underserved. These benefits exist even when controlling for student poverty level and parent education achievement levels. Strong school library programs are one of the most important resources we have to address inequity and learning loss for our students. Unfortunately, the proposed cuts for Portland Public Schools would amplify equity and access gaps we already see between students." One school librarian asked that the board consider the following question. There are no other teachers that are expected to absorb all the work responsibilities of an eliminated classified position. A full-time position added to a full-time position is not reasonable duties as assigned. Every high school has at least a full-time classified staff member in the library in addition to a full-time teacher librarian in the 2027-28 year, which is the workload set by the PAT contract. Asking teacher librarians to do so sets a dangerous precedent. What other PAT staff will be asked to absorb classified cuts? We heard earlier tonight about some serious concerns about what it means from the staff who serve students every day for the district to attempt to decentralize resources. This happens also in regards to the special education cuts for the feeding team, assistive technology, and adaptive PE. Our staff members can learn new skills, but meaningful and applicable training for PSFP staff has not been prioritized by the district. This year, the 3 teacher planning days that the Chief of Student Supports indicated that have traditionally been set aside for training for our members were not paid work days for most PFSP members, and trainings were not held. This includes classified connections, the funds for which are negotiated in our contract and has been running for over 20 years, but was canceled this year. As the special education department moves from a focused classroom model to a neighborhood school model, we need more staffing, not less. Staff in focused classrooms have specialized knowledge and experience to serve the needs of their particular student population. Keeping students within their neighborhood schools is a laudable goal. Students deserve to learn in the communities that they live in. And it means that the needs of the students at each site will be more expansive. It's fine to say that the staffing ratios remain the same, but staff experience and expertise in the past have focused on the profiles of the students that they're there to serve. Staff with experience in an intensive skills classroom working with students who have learning needs due to cognitive and adaptive skill delay have different strategies and experiences than staff members who work in social emotional classrooms where students' needs for self-regulation and can have difficulty navigating verbal or physical aggression. Asking a member to serve the needs of both groups of students require that current levels of specialization follow the students. I want to have confidence that our staff will be provided with the necessary training to provide for these student needs, but I have yet to see the evidence. We will continue to advocate, along with union partners across the state, for a better funding mechanism. But the fact remains that the board has an obligation to prioritize the needs of the students when they distribute that funding back out to serve students and communities and make sure that they can have a free and appropriate public education, provide the staffing and training necessary to serve their needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Is that it? All right, well, the meeting is adjourned. The next regular meeting of the board will be April 9th.